What is up, everybody, and welcome to Grinderslive. We're doing the NBA first today, early edition of NBA Grinderslive here on a Friday. Whew, TGIF, man. Thank God it's Friday and the weekend is upon us. So we're going to knock out some NBA for you. Then MLB will be up next, and then that'll be followed by crunch time. So we're going to get you covered on all your bases here. But for right now, NBA, and right now on a Friday, as always, we don't have Mean Dean here. I don't know where he's at. I mean, I don't even want to speculate at this point. There's some people have been DMing me. There's a lot of things going on.
Didn't you say he had a relationship now? Is that?
Oh, is that? That's what that might be. What happened, man? He might be off flying jets. I see.
He might be in Oakland. Is that what you're saying? He might be in Oakland.
Well, here's the thing: is my dad, Pops. He likes to check the RG rankings, and for some reason, he always checks Dean's rankings and see where Dean's at. He said Dean's been hot lately. Dean's been making a lot of money lately in DFS. So maybe Dean's just jet setting, man, out there with all his bucks he's making. So we don't know where he is. But we're joined by Kirk Deese. Myself and Kirk is here, aka Chris Kirkwood, aka Kid Yahoo, man. And
unfortunately, Yahoo doesn't count for rankings. So.
Well, you know what? That makes what your current rankings even that much more impressive, is that you don't even have the Yahoo factored in, where you are clearly the number one DFS player on the Yahoo platform, and it's not even close. So, first off, I need an update on Casey, man. How is Casey doing?
I mean, better than what we were expecting last night. So I have two dogs for everyone who's listening. Phil, who just had intervertebral disc disease, but so he was under he was on crate rest for about 3 weeks where he couldn't move, but he's all back to normal and good. He's good. Now I got another dog, Casey. They're two old geezers, we call them, geriatrics. He's got a collapsed trachea, which is really rough. So he can't, anytime he moves too much or anything, he can't breathe, and it really affects his breathing. And so he coughs all the time. It's really bad. It's a degenerative. It's only going to get worse. It can't get better. And I thought we had to bring him to the ER last night. I thought last night was the night, unfortunately. But thank God this dude is tough. He can get through anything. So he made it out okay. He's good. He's back at home. He's resting.
Well, I heard the story, so I'm just going to say we need to go on record as we need to ban these jackasses who let their dogs run around with no leashes, right? I mean, that's ridiculous. Just ridiculous.
Well, yeah. So that's the thing. I live in a apartment complex, and it's nice on the water. So there's a lot of joggers. People take their dogs and everything. But it's so bad for Casey with what he's going through now, because if he gets hyped up at all, he'll get hyped up, and then that crushes him. And then he can't breathe, and he's and some dog ran up to him yesterday. And this happened. This is the 30th time that this has happened in the last probably 2 weeks, thing. So I'm just on edge now, and I try to avoid everybody. But this dog was off leash, running up and started stuff with him. And I was and then his owner came over, was sorry about that. And I basically told him if it happens again, I was going to break his face. I snapped, but it's what happens. They put you on edge.
They do, man. They do. I see we got some big names in chat here. Well, we got one big name and one little name. We got Peter G, that'd be AKA the Takeover. If you've been around DFS for a while, you
Peter Caviar. Peter Caviar.
That's Big Pete, right? That's Pete. Yeah, that's Big Pete right there, man. If you've been around DFS, the Takeover. That's the Takeover here. I see he's wow. busting my balls, but that's all right. I give it. And then there's other.
Talk about RG rankings. That's the next guy, Jared Barton.
Is he moving up the ranking?
The 1, 3, 2, 4. Yeah, I mean he's definitely up the rankings now.
Man, all right, guys, we got a big show here. I want this to be very interactive because we're early, and we don't have all the news, so we're just kind of going by the seat of our pants here. We're flying it, but I do want to remind you guys, RG Premium is out there. You can choose a single sport. You can choose multiple sports to put in your package. We have a code for $10 off your first month. You get whatever you put. There's MMA, there's college football if you want that, soccer, esports. College basketball just ended, but if you wanted that next year, best college basketball content out there at RG. But $10 off your first month. There's a code going to be dropped in chat, and you got to get that, guys. And I want you to fire up some questions, all the questions you got pertaining to this slate, and even, if it's a little bit racier and you want to get personal with it, I mean, I'll make the determination if we can answer it, but I don't mind. I don't mind you firing those questions. We'll get them by the end of this day. We'll get to them all because our producer's keeping track of everything. What you got? What do you see out there, man?
No, I'm just saying, we got quite the crew in chat today for some racy questions potentially.
Yeah. All right. Well, we got a lot of stuff to get to here. Whew. Injuries. Let's talk about some injuries first, because that's the main thing you're playing here in the NBA this time of year is just the injuries. I got some teams I've put together here that are looking a little bleak for tonight. I'll throw some of these teams out there. I need your opinion on them. All right. So the big news, I guess the one that really, there's a couple big teams out there with injuries, but Atlanta, no Trae Young tonight, no Danilo Gallinari tonight, no John Collins again. These guys played a not a doubleheader. Thinking baseball, they played overtime in San Antonio last night. Now they're traveling to New Orleans tonight, and those guys are sitting out. So I was a little bit surprised Clint Capella didn't get ruled out. He played a lot of minutes and he's been dealing with an injury, but for now he's playing. So there's some names out there we should be looking at for Atlanta, right? How are you handling Trae Young and Gallinari being out?
Man, I don't know. So that's the two main situations, right? Like, so as far as basically everybody got dumped out on Atlanta except for Capella, and everybody got dumped out on New Orleans, right? And both of these guys played overtime games last night. Both of these guys are on a back-to-back, obviously. So, I mean, New Orleans without Lonzo, Ingram, and Zion, I mean, talk about usage, right? Like that is the entire team, right? As far as usage goes. So we're going to be back to looking at Nicole Alexander-Walker. Even Josh Hart is out tonight. So, it's just impossible to avoid these guys. You're going to have to play some combo of these guys. And then also with Atlanta, maybe they're a little less on my priority list, but only because I haven't quite figured out who I like. Missing Trae is massive. Missing John Collins is massive. And obviously Capella is going to stand out, but it's kind of the guard play. So we got Lou Williams, who isn't playing big minutes, hasn't played big minutes yet for Atlanta, did play over 20 minutes yesterday. As probably their best scoring threat guard. There's Kevin Huerter. There's Brian Goodwin from the point guard position. It's like these guys, you don't really want to play these guys, right, Chop? Maybe Sweet Lou.
Lou Williams was a guy he's a guy I got a little check mark by his name. Like I like me some Lou Williams. I think there's, he's just one of those guys, man. Anytime you give him the ball and give him some minutes, he's going to put up some points. I think they're going to need it tonight. So I kind of like Lou, but when this news came in, I guess Capella's going to play, but if he does play, he shot up my rankings to like maybe my number one center now. That he's gonna get a lot of work done tonight. I like him, but so we got some more injuries too. You kind of hit on New Orleans a little bit. Ball is out. Zion's out, Ingram's out. Those guys were out last night, and they threw in Josh Hart being out tonight. So now you got even more out tonight for that backcourt. What do you make about these guys? Like, is it as easy as just lock in NAW and Bledsoe for you?
Yeah, I think so. Although Bledsoe would be the guy I would be a little bit worried about because of the back-to-back, just because he's so he has such high variance anyway. He can be so bad all the time. But Nicole Alexander-Walker, at least he's a young guy, making his name, getting the opportunity with Lonzo out. So I feel extremely comfortable with him. The guy has just been seeing massive usage lately in these games. He's a scorer, at 32% usage last night. Expect the same going tonight. His price is a little inflated, but he's worth it. He is, the high usage player on the team right now. And this game is going to play like a G League game, right? Like this game should just have massive points, massive steals, blocks, like the whole gamut. So if this game stays competitive, all these guys should smash.
Yeah. And guys, don't forget, probably within about 5 minutes, we're going to have SBK on here. Maybe. I don't know. Devin, you got to give me, is SBK coming on today? If so, give it to. All right. So so if you've got like questions right now about the projections, and I see them right now, I'll ask him for you guys. So get in chat. If you have anything that you specifically would like to address to SBK, let me know, and I'll ask him. Some more injury news here. Oklahoma City, man, we're down. I mean, we've been down several guys for a while now, but SGA, Al Horford, Ty Jerome, Darius Baisley, Lou Dortz. The list goes on and on. Who's your favorite on the OKC side with all these? Because we've got a front court with two nice young players there, Roby and Moses. Moses has been crushing, and your back court. There's a couple value plays there. A couple guys I really can't pronounce their name. Alec Pokovevsky and
Pokashevsky.
Sevi, I don't. The guy from Detroit. You got it. Who do you like? Who do you like from OKC tonight, man?
No, come on, say it again, please.
Sevi Mihalik?
Yeah, he nailed it, Chop. He nailed
it. Yeah, awesome.
This is tough. So this is all about matchup, right? Like this is probably the worst possible matchup that these guys could have. So the Suns, defense, 5th in defensive rating, play to solo place, 26th in pace, have a bunch of good defenders, have shutdown defenders at pretty much every position except the center position. So maybe a guy like Moses would make the most sense, but his price is up to 7,200. So I think we're going to find better prices on this slate. So I'm really not interested in any of these guys. If I had to pick, I mean, man, maybe like you played the blowout factor and Tony Bradley gets some extra run in this game. Played 17 minutes in the last game. I know Zaz is a big Tony Bradley stan, says that this guy is the truth. So we could play him for 3,500, but I mean, I'm not excited about anyone. Pokashevsky, at least he's a scorer, makes sense. But man, it's just rough. It's just all about matchup.
Yep. You got Charlotte out there. LaMelo Ball's been out for a while, but now tonight he's joined by Malik Monk on the sideline. So some more backcourt minutes there opened up. What do you think about Rozier and Graham? Has he got a chance to crack your lineup tonight?
Yeah, Rozier would be my favorite, except again, we're dealing with, on DraftKings at least, we're dealing with an $8,100 price tag. He's seen the more ball handling opportunities come his way with LaMelo out. Devontae Graham's price is nicer. I mean, both of these guys are going to play big minutes. They're going to suck up all the guard minutes. So I would probably just lean with the cheaper Devontae Graham. But if I'm looking for ceiling, Terry Rozier is definitely the guy. Gordon Hayward, he's struggled in this matchup previously, but you can make a case to play him for sure. But he's not someone that I'm prioritizing this late. But don't mind him.
Golden State, we have Steph Curry ruled out. Also, I'm not seeing a projection on Michael Mulder, and I just wanted to throw that name out there because if you got stuck with his Top Shot, you're in trouble, man. You ate that one. So
I'm a bag holder.
So you don't want that.
No, this guy Andy Do. What's his Twitter handle?
Great. Dirty Rush. DURTY.
Great Twitter follow. I mean, the guy is sharp as anyone you could say as far as financial things, right? When you say that, Chop. I mean,
he's a sharp guy.
He's always right. Unfortunately, he got us into Top Shots at the absolute top, right? How much did you spend for that Anthony Davis Cool Cats? How much?
I don't even know, but
you're a millionaire. It doesn't matter to you, but like to the little guys like me, it hurts. It hurts. But anyway, so I have Michael Mulder. I got stuck with that Top Shot.
A lot of people got stuck with the old Mulder, but it happens, man. The Lakers. Let's talk about the Lakers here because Anthony Davis is out, LeBron James is out, and the Andre Drummond experiment lasted about 15 minutes, 8 minutes, 9 minutes, whatever it was last night. But he's going to be out tonight too. So maybe we could fire up some Montrezl Harrell. I don't know. What do you think? You going to go back to Harrell tonight, or you think Gasol's going to eat into him?
No, you can definitely go back to Harrell tonight. So unfortunately, Andre Drummond ripped his toenail. You ever ripped off a toenail, Chop? You bite your nail. You bite your toenail. You've never bitten your toenails?
Bit my toenails?
Yeah. Have you ever done that as a kid or anything?
No.
Okay.
No, but I've done it to the thumbnail. I ripped it off a couple of times, but not the toenail. Is that more painful than the thumb?
I've never.
Can you just not play basketball with it? Because
I'm assuming it hurts.
Yeah, that was. I'm assuming it hurts, but I don't know.
But anyways, yeah, you can play Montrezl Harrell. So I mean, he can push for 30 minutes in this this spot. I'm not sure if he definitely will, but it's possible. So the ceiling is there. He's probably projected for anywhere from 28 to 30 minutes, so somewhere in that range. It's a great matchup against the Kings. This game could be a nice for fantasy production. So yeah, this game's going to go over are going to go underlooked from an ownership standpoint. So I think all these guys are playing. People are going to have forgot about like Kyle Kuzma, and I was down on Kuzma since Drummond was coming back and probably going to eat up a lot of the rebounds. But now that Drummond's out of town, and people may have forgotten about Kuz, and they could go back to him. Dennis Schroeder could pop off. So any of these guys.
All right. Now, as promised, we are joined by SPK to talk about some of tonight's slates and projections. Keach, how you doing, man?
Doing good. How you boys doing?
Did you get a good night's sleep last night? Because you were sounding a little rough yesterday when I talked to you.
I wouldn't call it a good night's sleep. 10-game NBA file. That'll keep me up till 4 or 5 in the morning. I'm making it through, man. I actually just got my second cup of coffee going, so we're getting there.
Oh, nice. How's I meant to ask you. I've been meaning to ask you. How's bachelor life in Nashville?
Not bad, man. It's certainly not a bad city to be a single man in. I think maybe like, I don't know, maybe some spots in California, maybe like Austin would be another cool spot. But yeah, I don't know. I think Nashville's right up there with the best of them.
Yeah,
gotta be. We got to recommend that to Zaz.
Oh yeah,
he could do some damage out there.
Yeah, definitely. We need to hear some stories sometime because I don't get enough single guy stories, man. I need some more stories from Keach. But so we got a lot going on here. Keach, just give me your overview on this. I mean, we got a couple big teams. Atlanta and New Orleans did the same thing. New Orleans did the same thing too as they did last night, but they kicked in Josh Hart too, right? Another guy out. So we got a lot there. And then Atlanta with I specifically want you to hit on Lou Williams. He's got a low projection out there, but I guess it's the unknown. We don't know what he's going to do with Atlanta. We've never seen Trae Young out and Lou Williams in Atlanta. So talk to me about those two spots, please.
Yeah, so I'll start with Atlanta. That is kind of a tricky one. We had somewhat of a debate as to what the starting lineup will look like. There was, I guess, some people on the train that Lou Williams might start, and then some others that they'll start with like a Huerter Bogdanovich backcourt with Snell and Hill alongside Capella. So we'll see. I mean, I think if Lou Will starts, the minute projection will come up probably closer to like 30. With either, I assume Huerter would be the guy that doesn't start in that situation unless they don't start either Hill or Snell. But I could see the Williams projection coming up. He's still like a shade under a fantasy point per minute. But yeah, I mean, if he gets closer to 30, he's gonna be popping. Certainly in like optimals or in optimizers. I do think, I mean, we saw another huge game out of Bogdanovich with Collins out the other night. He's now back-to-back 45-plus point fantasy point games. I would imagine that he still gets a lot of run. I'm a little bit weary the fact that he played 45 minutes last night, but also kind of the case with Capella too. He played 44, so there are, I guess, some concern in terms of back-to-back and the double overtime thing for some of these Atlanta guys. But yeah, Lou Williams, not part of that concern. Kevin Huerter also didn't really play too many minutes. So if you're at all scared off by the back-to-back off a double overtime game, those two guys are good targets. On the New Orleans side, they're obviously also incredibly shorthanded. Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Eric Bledsoe are by far the two most appealing plays here, although Kira Lewis at 3.7K on DraftKings, also very cheap on FanDuel. Have him projected for 30 minutes and about a fantasy point per minute, a little bit below that. So those two, and then James Johnson, another potential value option. We have him projected for 32 minutes and about 28 DraftKings points. So those are the four guys on that side I like. I guess you can throw Steven Adams into the fold too.
Cool. I wrestled up a little known chop fact for you, Keach, is starters playing Houston over the last 6 weeks have seen their minutes decrease by 9%, probably due to blowout. What do you think about that fact?
I think it's an interesting fact.
I made it up.
Sense.
I don't want you to go put that in the program. I made that up, but I'm just letting you. But from the eye test, it looks like they're playing less minutes. It's a 12-point spread. Can you like predict a blowout there, man? Because Houston's just rolling over. At least in the fourth quarter, they're just willing to roll over.
Yeah, that was one of the more believable I believe that like 100%. You
I
said
mean,
it
I
very
had to
confidently.
catch you,
Very
man.
confidently.
He sold it well. He sold it.
I didn't
well.
want
Yeah.
you to. I didn't want you to go plug that in real quick in the optimizer, and then you mess everybody up. So I had to catch it. But yeah, it's a 12-point spread. You don't read, as the projection guys. You guys don't read too much into that, right? You're just kind of, this is what it is. These guys are going to get their minutes.
No, I mean, generally I tried. I mean, it's not much like on these guys like Jaylen Brown's a shade below where he typically is. Kemba Walker, I think I'd probably have a 34. We have him at 33 minutes right now. Same thing with Marcus Smart. It's like a very light, I guess, come down off their typical minutes, but it's pretty much still the same. It's just usually like in these situations, I'll drop people by a minute. I think there was a situation with Utah. I think it was in that Cleveland game where they're like 16.5-point favorites where it was like, we docked 2 minutes, but most situations like this is kind of just taking a minute from the regulars. But yeah, it's kind of hard to bake it in too much. It's just kind of a tough thing to predict.
I got a question from chat for you. It says, can you talk about Kira Lewis's minutes stability in general tonight? How stable are Kira Lewis's minutes tonight?
I mean, I wouldn't call them particularly stable. Obviously, like Bledsoe and Alexander Walker are both, I guess, technically guards. So, I mean, if those two are playing big minutes, there is a chance that they could, spend time without Kira Lewis out there. The problem with that is they just don't really have too much else, like, offensively. I mean, we have guys like Wes Iwundu, Wean Gabriel, Najee Marshall. Like, not many of those guys are, like, offering much offensively. You're not getting really anything from Steven Adams. So I think they're probably going to want to have at least, two of those three kind of guards, or I guess, ball dominant players relative to what they have right now. I would imagine they'll want to have those guys out there. So I'm pretty confident with where we have him at 30 minutes. He was at 33 in that last game with basically this same unit plus Josh Hart. So, I mean, could I see him like in the mid-20s? I guess it would be shocking, but I'm pretty confident with that 30 number, and I wouldn't even be surprised if we ended up closer to like 32 or 33.
Nice. Kirk, you got it? You got anything?
No, what's shocking, I didn't even realize how many minutes Bogey's been playing in these last few games for the Hawks. But no, he went over what I was concerned about.
Cool. Well, I guess that'll do it. That'll wrap you up for the week, Keach, man. Thanks for joining us, dude.
Yeah, man. Pleasure as always. Have a good weekend, guys.
Yes, sir. You too. All right, guys. SBK there going over the projections and some of the inside stuff. And yeah, it's fascinating. Some of it's fascinating. I just, how they do it, how they piece it together every night for us. So now I guess we can start going over some players we like, Kirk. We've crushed it enough here. We gotta start getting to the stuff that people came for. I like to go over like a little position by position a little bit, sprinkle some things in. I got my positions pulled up from FanDuel. You can pull them up for Yahoo or DraftKings, whatever you want. So let's talk about some point guards here, Kirk. We talked about some of the guys out there, Bledsoe and Kira Lewis, but other than that, is there anybody else at point guard that you're kind of like looking at? Like, that's pretty good play.
All right. So for point guard, what side are we talking? Anything?
Whatever you want, man. Just anything you want to throw out there. We're just winging it, man.
All right. Well, I mean, on DraftKings point guard shooting guard, I think Kira Lewis is a great play. We've already talked about him. I think his minutes are completely stable, even though they haven't been stable. Just in this situation, they're going to be completely stable. They don't have another choice. He's their best defender. He's young. So unless he gets, benched for doing something stupid, then I think he's going to play all the minutes he can possibly handle. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Lou Williams, we already talked about. I kind of think, so we're already forgetting about Fred VanVleet because of the price, but like we're going to have value everywhere, so we can kind of pick and choose any of our studs. So any of these studs are good to go. VanVleet, Luka Doncic, obviously. This is it's a slower paced matchup for Doncic, but his prices dropped down a little bit, so he's 10.7 on a slate like this. You can make that work easily. The guy I love is De'Aaron Fox. I think this Lakers game is going to play really sloppy. And the position that the Lakers give up so much production, it's been consistent all year round as to the point guard position where they're 24th in DVP. They also are 27th in opponent steals per game. What are the games that Darren Fox has massive games? It's when he racks up those steals and just crushes in transition. So Fox is a guy that I absolutely love tonight. I don't know. That's I think John Morant is a fade, even though I love that game
Really?
environment. That your boy McDaniels is locking people up.
Is he? Oh
Yeah.
man, I might have to adjust my lineup. Then I got Ja in there, man. You did it. I guess if you like Fox and you like that game to get going, maybe you can put some Schroeder in your lineup. You like Schroeder?
Yeah, I think he should be solid for sure.
Yeah. So man, you
I mean,
threw me for
he's coming off of what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 really solid games in a row in this situation. His price is, just moved just up a tad, but he's 35 to 42 fantasy points in his last 5 games.
Yeah, they're still trying to position themselves for playoffs. They still need to try to win games. It's not like they're just giving things away, and he's their best scorer, and this is a good matchup, so I don't mind that. Let's look at some shooting guards now. You mentioned Van Vliet. He's the guy I had identified on FanDuel as a shooting guard who's going to be in my lineup for sure. After that, there's a lot of guys. I want to go Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I think he's a good play. But I talked about Lou Williams. I think that's a very shrewd GPP play down there for 4,800. That could happen. And then there's another guy for Toronto. He's looking good with his new team. Gary Trent, man, had a really big game. He's playing minutes. He's getting shots up now. Kyle Lowry's out. Of course, Norman Powell got shipped away for him. So there's all kinds of shots in that lineup. Who's some of the shooting guards you've got on your list?
Yeah, I do like Gary Trent as well. He looked great. I love the matchup against Golden State. They're designing plays for him. I mean, he's getting good looks, right? So, thing with Toronto is they're going to get him looks, and he's got something to prove. So I like that, and he's been a knockdown shooter the entire year on Portland as well. So if he gets open looks, he's going to knock him down, and also a good defender. But 22 shots in his last game. Now playing Golden State. Yes, gotta like that. Let's see who else we got. You said Lou. I mean, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, obviously. And man, those bogey minutes are, just they kind of shocked me that I didn't even realize he got 45. I know it was overtime helped boosted, but still 37 in the game before that, and tough matchup against Phoenix. I mean, the guy's been crushing in the last 2 games, so he makes a lot of sense. Jaylen Brown. So if there's one good defender on the Houston Rocket team, which there is, and there's just one, it's Daniel House Jr., who's probably going to be on Tatum tonight. And that should, give Jaylen Brown plenty of opportunity to put up a good fantasy night against Houston, who's playing at a really fast pace. I think they're let me check it. They're 6th in pace. They've also 22nd in opponent blocks, 23rd in opponent steals per game. Jaylen, when he gets going, when he gets those big peripheral games. Also, they're right about league average for opponent threes. So, he could. I mean, basically anyone can do what they want against this Rockets team, and Jaylen's probably headed for a big night. So, like that, I think he's going to get overlooked. I mean, Van Vliet, I already talked about. Maybe I should try to find Jordan Poole's going to be in play again too now with Curry out. He did kind of get a little bit hobbled with his ankle, but he's probable, and they said good to go, should be playing, so I wouldn't worry about it.
And you have any love for Andrew Wiggins? He's putting up some monster numbers with Steph Curry out.
Yeah, I mean, he could tank you as well. But for sure, I mean, this could be a ceiling spot for him. I mean, this game is right. I mean, the Raptors are not playing any defense right now. They're playing faster. They're probably going to be less inclined to have a big on the floor in this matchup. So you'll probably see more Boucher in this game. Maybe even Siakam play the 5, just because, I mean, Wiseman's kind of a smaller, guy that these guys can abuse. They may have, maybe it should be Draymond. So what I'm saying is that this game may play even faster. And I mean, both teams are playing pretty fast. The Warriors certainly like to run too. They're second in pace. So yeah, absolutely.
Go to some small forwards now. You hit on Bogdanovich. He's getting a lot of run out there with Collins out, and now tonight is going to be. Yeah, I'd be hard pressed to think he's not going to be the leading shot taker for the team. He's just in a really good spot there. And Kuzma, we hit on another guy we haven't talked about yet. Who's man, he's really sinking into his role here on the Toronto side. Is with all these people out is OG Anunoby. Like he's putting up some monster numbers. Gets a really good matchup tonight. So I got him identified as a guy. I want you to talk about OG and talk about Norman Powell on that Portland Milwaukee game. Is a 240 total almost. Like 240. I remember 7 or 8 years ago, 240 was the number they put up in the All-Star game because that's a huge number. And now it's just a Portland Milwaukee game on a Friday night. It's crazy. That game is going to be really, really good. So talk about Powell, Anunoby, and whoever else you like at small forward.
Definitely like OG. First of all, the block and the steal upside that you can get out of him. The Warriors are about league average in both of those categories. He's playing with a lot of confidence. He looked really confident to me in the last game. He was, shooting at will, shooting the three, putting it up every chance he can get. So he was facilitating the offense more than I expected him to. So OG is definitely in play for sure. Who was the other guy you wanted me to talk about?
Maybe Norman Powell down there. You
Yeah.
got any interest in that?
That's a nice deep flyer. I mean, if he gets it going, obviously Bucks where they give up production is at the 3-point line. Always have, always will. Just because they play kind of a inside out sort of style. So.
And that's what he's doing with Portland. He's getting 2.3 3-pointers per game with Portland. That's a real number right there.
So, yeah, and the only thing that's not a chop factor.
No, that's a real one.
All right. Yeah, and then, and they're going to want to continue to get this guy going and get him confidence in their offense. They're going to be designing plays for him. The thing is, he's got CJ to compete with too a little bit, but I mean, we know where the three guys are that are going to be scoring on that team, and this is a good test for them tonight. So. Yeah, I could see him having a good game. He's probably going to be low owned.
Yeah, so I don't want to give away too much inside information here, but I did run the RG FanDuel optimizer right before the show, like the last batch of updates they did right before the show, and it's got Gordon Hayward at the small forward spot. I'm like, I don't know, man. I didn't have.
You know what you do? You scoop blender tonight. That's what you do.
Oh, you like? Oh man. Oh, now you're talking. But then when I lose the blender, then I got to hear about it all this time.
Then you got to hear about it.
I don't want to do it. So, what do you think about Gordon? He's ending up in the optimizer, man. Gordon against Indiana. What do you think?
I mean, I think it's a stable, solid play. I'm not sure what his ceiling is in this matchup. He's been controlled by Holiday pretty well in each other time that they've gone against each other, but. I think he's a fine play. I would be tempted to scoop Blender if I were you, Chop.
Actually, I don't think Blender's playing NBA anymore.
Oh, he waved the towel on NBA, I think.
I think so. So I don't. But it doesn't matter. You'll see the optimizer out there with about.
NBA takes up so much. It takes a lot of heart to keep pounding through these and staying up on news, and then also now to play MLB at the same time.
It's tough, man. NBA is really good those first couple of months. You're really stoked for it, and boy, it'll wear on you pretty quick, especially this year, man, with the tight schedule and everything's going on. So let's move it on down the line, because here in a few minutes, we're going to start answering all your questions, guys. Get all the questions you want answered. Fire them off in chat. Our producer, Devin, absolutely keeping track of every single question, and we will answer them all. So anything you got, we're going to do it. But we'll go to some power forwards now and tell you some of the guys we liked. One of the guys, okay, so I want to start off with that same game because it's a massive total. And you mentioned Luka earlier. I think if I'm going to spend up on a guy tonight, I think it's going to be Giannis. I like this game a lot for him, the matchup, just the flow of the game. And you're going to have plenty of money. So what do you think about Giannis? And if you had your choice between any of these studs, which one's your favorite out of any position tonight?
Yeah, I mean, Giannis makes the most sense because of the massive total, right? So the massive total, the match on the road, the low spread, so you're expecting this game is going to be competitive. So he's gonna be popular for all those reasons. He and Luka have the highest ceilings on the slate for sure. He's hasn't popped off for a little bit. Been dealing with that knee, but he has played 34 and 35 minutes back in the past two games, 39% usage, 33% usage. So everything's there. All the key stats that we're looking for are there. So he just needs to have a big game and put it all together. And Portland is definitely a team that can give it to him with the way that they play defense. So yeah, I definitely like him for sure. My favorite play, who's like the mid, I really like. So I love the Memphis game environment tonight, and Minnesota, and just kind of like how I liked it when the last show we did, I think, together, or maybe last week when it was John Wall against Cat. The Wolves Grizzly game just is a game that I have starred just because these teams both play fast. Wolves are playing fourth in pace, Grizzlies playing fifth. Wolves give up tons of peripherals, 27th in opponent blocks per game. The Grizz 24th in opponent blocks, 25th in opponent steals. The Grizzlies are also 23rd in opponent threes. It's like every box gets checked for like Cat to be able to succeed in this matchup, right? Like he's someone who can hit the three outside, who can take advantage of Valanciunas. They're also banged up and thin from big standpoint. Cat, yeah, but he can disappoint with the best of them. And like just never goes that extra mile for you when you need it. He can like start off with like a massive first quarter, and then he just like fizzles like and barely has a huge game. But like if he can just put it all together, and he's had four really solid games in a row, 64, 56, 62, 53 fantasy points. New York was a tough matchup. I think this is like the perfect matchup for him tonight. So Cat, I love, and no one's going to be clicking Cat over Giannis. They're going to want to find that extra $800 to play Giannis. I think Cat can get it done though.
Yeah, some more power forwards here I'd like to discuss. Siakam. What do you think about Siakam here? We talked about several Toronto guys, but like is 3 too many? Because I really don't want Siakam, Anunoby, and Van Vliet in the same lineup. But is 3 too many? And what do you think about Pascal?
Love him. He should have. I loved him last game, and he disappointed. The minutes were still there. He seems like he's like kind of a diva. Now it's all coming out like he's getting in fights with the coach and things like that. Like, so I think it's like his mindset that plays a big factor in some of his games because he underperforms a lot. But everything points to what should be a solid game. His price is still fine. He's only 7,800 on DK. It just seems like a lock to me. He has massive upside. So hopefully he can come out and ball tonight. The matchup is prime for him, and the Raptors, they're just not, this game should be competitive. They're just not playing really good defense. So I like him a lot. My favorite overall play though tonight, I think I head to it later, is De'Aaron Fox that I think will be somewhat sneaky on tonight's slate.
All right, I've seen you build your Yahoo lineup. All right, I've seen behind the curtain. I know what goes into the process.
Oh, huh?
Yeah, I've seen it, man. I know what's going on. You let me in on that one before, but question for when you're sitting there and you're making that lineup and you're running all these numbers and you're just running numbers, man. I've seen you run numbers for like 2 hours, just run numbers. They're like going across the screen. Do you factor in like a revenge game, like Porzingis tonight in New York? He's had 2 really good games against them. The only 2 times he's played. He's hot right now as a player. He's had 4 straight good games. Do you factor that in, or are you just like, nah, the numbers aren't putting him in there, so I'm not going to put him in there? How do you handle that one?
No, I do factor that in. If I have a strong feel, so that's the thing. And so Yahoo is that you get most of your action playing cash games, like these like 10-man contests, whether they pay out half or they pay out top 3. That's depending on which ones you enter. But I enter them all. So the key is for most people, they're all projection slaves. So it's like I can pretty much, and it's also their last site that they focus on, like a lot of these like big name players, right? So that's their last site they focus on. So I can pretty much call what their lineups are going to be, and you'll see a lot of the nights where everyone has the same lineup, right? And besides the blender leading the opto cult of 50 of the RG members, but you can pretty much know what they're going to play. So I'm always looking to take a stand. I like being different because there's more payout if you're playing the top three positions. So I like to be like I love to have like a 2v2 or a 1v1, and Porzingis is like the perfect type of play for that. First of all, he's a center. I'm always looking for that kind of a play in the center position because that's where you get the most upside on Yahoo. Is with the blocks and steals of the centers. So I'm always looking to have two solid centers. And then so Porzingis, yeah, you're tempting me now that I wasn't even thinking that because I didn't have, I was doing MLB rankings before and whatnot. So yeah, I might just play some Porzingis tonight on
Oh
Yahoo.
no, I'm not gonna get I'm not gonna get
But
finger pointed at me.
My first thought is like Cat. Like I'm gonna like try to like make Cat work tonight, because I think it's a monster spot for him. And like if I could make a lineup with Cat and Porzingis together, I just might.
Yeah. So you talk about Cat, Porzingis, Capella. We've already talked about. I think he's a great center play. Montrezl Harrell, he should get back to getting those minutes, and it's a pretty decent matchup for him. So he's another center play. And then the one guy we haven't talked about, I really like Robert Williams again. Hopefully he doesn't get late scratched. I don't know what happened in that game, but
he's sick, a little under the weather.
Got sick. All right. Well, that threw me off. I completely punted that whole night because of Robert Williams getting.
What'd you do? You sat back for dinner. You've got the bubble bath. You put your lineup, made your lineup, and you're like, it's bath time.
Bubble bath.
Tell people about you take a bubble bath.
Bubble bath is strictly Saturday night because you can't wear out a good thing. So Saturday nights, 9:00. I get my bowl of cereal, finish that off, and then boom, I put the Grey's Anatomy on for my wife, so she's got something to do while I'm in there, and I go hit the bubble bath, man, and turn on the jet streams and relax the week away. But no, I mean Robert Williams, I had him in the other night, and he scratched. So of course I'm looking like, oh, I could play Andre Drummond now, and this guy gets a toenail ripped off, and then all of a sudden the team is dead. So that happened. Do you have any other centers to besides the guys we've already talked about?
I mean, Montrez, we've already mentioned him. I mean, J-Val could be in for a big game tonight. I mean, especially if Sabonis is out, Miles Turner.
Oh, means he likes J-Val a lot. Joe-Val means he likes him a lot tonight.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, that's it. All right. You know what, guys? Fire up some questions because now is the time to answer. We got about 7 or 8 minutes left in this show, and we're going to do nothing but answer questions for me from here on out. So let me bring in Devin. He's got the list of questions for us. Devin, steer us in the direction you want us to go and fire off some questions.
People aren't used to these early shows because we have a very short list of questions so far.
Well, talk slow then.
Yeah, we are the opposite of lightning round currently.
We've got Farmer in chat, so he can come up with some questions.
I'm sure we'll get now that we started.
We're not pointing fingers, man. We're not pointing fingers on that errant pitcher he gave us yesterday. Who I forget.
Oh, he had us. He said that Hendricks was the easiest player to slate.
And then he didn't even play him.
The easiest slate. I said I hated him. I ended up playing him just to have camaraderie with it. I wanted to, show camaraderie. And then he blows up in the first inning. He's like, "Oh, I got off him 2 minutes before lock."
That's the worst when a guy does that. But we can't point fingers because then, when Porzingis gets kicked out tonight, I'm going to get the finger pointed at me, and I don't want that. So what do we got? We need some questions.
I've been around long enough to know there are no locks in baseball. Big T's Burner wants to know, Kirk, what's the Yahoo Opto play for small forward?
Well, the Kirk Opto play at this point is going to be
Kid Yahoo Opto.
Ooh, it might end up being Kelly Oubre.
I'm
gonna have to think twice about that one. But right now it's looking like Kelly Oubre.
Next one comes from, I believe this one's from the same person. Yahoo, Siakam, or Fred VanVleet?
And I like them both. And it's one sport. I mean, I played them both the other night. I like them both. It depends how you... honestly, it's just how whichever lineup that I made I like better. So if I wanted to play, I could play Porzingis over Siakam and then fit VanVleet down there. If I like that build better, then just go with it because they're both really solid plays.
We got a request from this is Big T's Q&A hour here. Wanting to know, Big T's Burner wants to know if now that we have the time, can you have Kirk touch on the Yahoo lineup construction for a few minutes? You want to run over some core thoughts for Yahoo?
I mean, it's going to be Pelicans. It's going to make differentiate at the center position. play the guys that you're going to have to play, like Nikhil Alexander-Walker. Bledsoe seems like a must, but I wouldn't. I don't know. I just have this feeling that he like if I can find a play that I like better than him, I'm not scared to not play Bledsoe. Giannis is going to be the stud, but play around with these centers tonight because there's plenty of them.
All right. Hopefully that helps out a little bit. Next one, it's not a question. Jim just says MLB is so much better on FanDuel.
Really?
Do you guys have a preferred site for baseball?
It's not FanDuel, but I mean, I don't mind it. I mean, my preferred site is probably, I kind of like doing the Yahoo lineup. So I like you doing the Yahoo baseball lineups.
Look at this guy.
I think it's interesting that FanDuel's putting some multi-position eligibility out there.
Yeah, I don't like that. Well, it's not. I mean, I do like. I've been playing on DK, but I do enjoy. I gotta go. The problem is it's like I can't play more than 2 sites.
Oh yeah, no, that's a little.
I just can't.
A little too thin for sure. Unicorn wants to know: do you think Bojo from Atlanta can have another big game?
I would say yes, if he's going to get his minutes. Now, like we kind of already hinted at, who knows when you drop 45 minutes the night before and you're traveling on the road, exactly what you're going to get out of the guy tonight. So if he gets his minutes, he'll be great. But it's all up to the coach. We don't know.
Derek wants to know best game stack on FanDuel.
Oh yeah, that's. I'll let Kirk can hit on this one too. But my opinion right now is that I think you want to get as many of those value, like max out almost the value guys from Atlanta, New Orleans, whatever you want to pick, because the salaries are so cheap. Max out those, and then take the rest of your lineup and do nothing but Portland, Milwaukee, because at 240 on the total, and it's been climbing all day long. It's like head and shoulders the most, has the highest chance of just being a monster scoring game. So I'd go Atlanta, New Orleans, all the value there, and then get my studs from the Milwaukee Portland game, because Dame and Giannis could have an absolute shootout between each other. But maybe Kirk's got a different opinion.
Lillard.
I got two others.
1% Lillard on FanDuel. Go ahead.
Yeah, I can echo that same sentiment from Chop. I do like that. Is a nice game. The Blazers Bucks, and it's easy to Giannis would be the guy, and then pick a Portland stud. But 2 other games that look really juicy to me are the Wolves Grizz. I've already mentioned it several times. It's just the pace of this game. I also think I'm not sure I want to play Ja, so I would look to some other pieces in that game, and then and load up like Cat. So I would take two strong plays at least from that game, and then fill it with the value around that Chop was mentioning too. Also, the Warriors Raptors looks incredibly juicy as well. So those are the games that I'm focusing on.
All right, Justin wants to know who's the Kyle Hendricks of tonight's slate. If you can translate.
Kirky's been studying this. Kirky, who's the Kyle Hendricks of tonight's slate?
Oh man, hold on. I mean, the opposite of Kyle Hendricks tonight is Kikuchi.
Who's he play for?
The Mariners.
Still on Seattle.
Okay.
Jim wants to know: do you prefer Snell or Bauer on FanDuel? Because we'll squeeze in a baseball question or two here.
Kirky, do you think Bauer's overrated? Like, is he being way overrated this year, Bauer?
First of all, Bauer's been my favorite pitcher for like 2 years. That's more than that, like 2, 3, 4 years. It's been a hot take for forever, and people hate him too, hate the whole persona. Man, nothing made me more hype when I love the fact that he threw the ball remember when he chucked it out to center field? Like, if hitters can bat flip and talk smack, and let the pitcher do some stuff too. But besides his, did you get blocked by Trevor Bauer on Twitter? He was block happy back in the day, blocking everyone. But anyway, Bauer is amazing. Now this year it's a little different after like having his. He's also flirted with giving up tons of home runs. Always a fly balls. But like, he's such a student of pitching, and he's just filthy. I love him. I don't love him tonight in cores because anything can happen in cores. And I also worry about the massive contract and all that stuff. But I don't think he's overrated.
Well,
All
that's
right.
about all the time we have. So, John,
Yeah,
you
it's
want to take us home?
unreal, unreal. Me and Kirky are grinding out NBA, and Dean's in chat over here, dropping in to say hi like it's just nothing. We're just grinding away here. But guys, we appreciate you tuning in. I think Dean's coming up next. Dean and Tuttle coming up next with some MLB talk, so they'll get you ready for the MLB slate. Good luck in all those GPPs tonight, guys. For Kirk Deese, I'm Head Chopper. Devin was our producer, and we're out of here.
But I want to show you some premium stuff. So we have two things here on RG with the plate IQ projections. That's the RG projections. So it's not the bat projections that Cardi does. So we have a top MLB stacks and stack values. So basically our smash percentage type of thing. And it shows the average projection, the average salary. So here's the smash percentage, the likely of it finishing as the the top overall value on the slate as a point per dollar basis. So on today's slate, as of right now, because obviously batting orders change and stuff like that, umpire assignments, who knows, weather changes. But as of right now, it's not going to change that much. As long as the pitchers remain the same, these numbers typically don't change that much. We can see here the Dodgers have the highest smash, obviously. I mean, they have a 7+ implied run total in cores. 28%. They're going to be owned at 20, about currently projected to be slightly under owned. Are they going to be the top value? No. Likelihood not the top value, but top raw smash percentage. Yes. Padres look to be over owned. 11% smash, 20% owned. So looking at this, here's the White Sox. 9% smash, 3% owned. So now I'm looking there. Higher percent chance of smashing than there will be owned. Right? Seattle may be a little over owned based on this. And then we get down to like marginal differences. So this is the smash percentage tool. It's for premium members. You can click on the link in the description, get $10 off your first month. Then we also have Slate IQ. Okay? As ownership changes, like these numbers will change. Typically, it's not going to be as dramatic, assuming that everyone, is still in the lineups and everything. Same pitchers and everything. So you could look at this at 11 o'clock in the morning, and it's not going to be dramatic. Probably won't be dramatically different. As long as ownership stays consistent. If it's not, then it could go all over the place. But here we have Slate IQ. There's another premium part of Rotogrinders. But I looking everything else, all these other things, stack type leverage and everything, typically stays about the same, like every slate. So I don't even bother looking at them. What the cash line is, whatever, like it's gonna be around the same no matter every slate. Typically by slate size, large slates versus small slates. The main part I'm looking at is the team stacking. So based on the simulations that Jamino has run, his hamsters, they're getting double duty this month. The hamsters are doing basketball and baseball. So you can see the percentage of the time the team is in the win. Basically, this is projected ownership and leverage for 4 or 5 hitter stacks based on results from the 25 most similar slates. So it's simulating it out. So we have here the percentage of the time that this team is in the winning lineup. Dodgers, 9.3%. 8.9% for the Padres. Giants, 6.9%. Seattle, 6.4%. And then you can see the field, the average ownership of the players of the lineup. So you're really looking for teams that are higher probability that'll be under-owned, be less owned. Doesn't mean you can't play the Dodgers. It just means that you need to find leverage or negative leverage. We can see here as of right now, the team with the highest probability based on our simulations as of right now, at the ownership levels that it's currently, everything, all the numbers stay the way they are right now. The Angels, 6.2% chance to win. They'll be owned at 4.5%. So that's positive leverage. Arizona, 4% chance to win, 2.2% owned. But you also get down to the bottom, like Tampa Bay, 1.6% chance of being the top stack in the winning lineup, 1.2% owned. So it has positive leverage, but it's also the lowest probability team. So just because it has positive leverage doesn't mean I got those are the only play. I got to play. I look here and I go, I'm going to play Tampa Bay, I'm going to play Arizona, and I'm going to play the Angels, and then not going to play anyone from any other teams. That's you shouldn't do that, right? There's still lower probability, still mixing in higher probabilities into your lineups as well. The projection, if you just played with those three teams, your projections are going to be way too low. Like, oh, I don't want any Dodgers one-offs in Coors. Like, why? Why not? I don't want any Padres. No, why not? Every piece of your lineup doesn't have to be like plus EV individually. If you're going to leave 7,000 on the table and play low and projected players as all, your lineup sucks. Oh, but every individual thing looks done up, but your lineup sucks. You don't need every individual thing to be every part of your lineup has to be leveraged. No, of course not. Why wouldn't I want to play Dodgers with a 7+ run total? You can play 5-man Dodger stack, even though it's chalky. You just have to realize that it's negative leverage, which means you have to find leverage elsewhere. Just have to find more leverage. Not just like, oh, I'll play the Dodgers and just play the second highest owned pitcher or something. Like, that may not be enough. So this is what I use. So that's why with Cincinnati and Milwaukee yesterday, I saw that they were a high enough probability of winning, and they were under-owned. So I'll build some. I mean, on DraftKings, I played 50 lineups in total. On FanDuel, I played 100 or 80 or something. Obviously, all this stuff that we're looking at for Slate IQ is from DraftKings only. The team smash percentage is for all sites. Slate IQ, because we use the results DB to go back and find the 25 most similar slates. So since we have results DB for DraftKings, we could do it with Slate IQ for DraftKings.
What is going on, Rotogrinders? Dean here at Dean78904. If you want to get all technical, I mean, it's 5:30 on the East Coast, 2:30 West Coast, 4:30 Tennessee time. So, of course, that means it's time for the flagship show here at Rotogrinders. It's called Grinderslive. Joining me today, America's #1 substitute teacher / driving instructor. It's Mr. Tuttle. What's going on, Tuttle?
Pushy, move your tushy.
Is that a Mr. Tuttle reference? I don't recall. It's been a while for me.
Yeah, that's no, I just say that is all my opens.
I wasn't sure. Maybe that was like a Babs Bunny thing because that's a whole other conversation that I want to get into. I don't know if we have time for it. It's only a 16.
Lola.
Oh, I knew. I didn't see Space Jam. I remember all my friends were going to see it. And
all right, hold up. I can't do the show with you. You've never seen Space Jam?
What? I'm not. I don't have any kids, and I'm not 12. Why do I want to see Space Jam?
It's
Is it a good movie?
It's iconic.
I mean, sure. I suppose. I guess like it's a reference people make, and I'm aware like the superpowers change, and I think Muggsy Bogues and Sean Bradley makes an appearance. I want to say maybe even Barkley outside of Jordan.
there's a fair mix of NBA All Stars that show up. It's you gotta watch it, man.
NBA All Stars, including Sean Bradley and Muggsy Bogues. I mean, the new one's going to be coming on HBO Max with LeBron. I mean, should I watch that? I like LeBron, but
no, you gotta watch Space, just the original.
Oh boy, are people going to be so angry? Like oh man, the original's so much better because it's always impossible to beat the. It's just nostalgia, though. I mean, nostalgia is undefeated. That's how that works. I think.
Right. Exactly.
I don't know. Welcome to the show, Tuttle. We're talking baseball. If you guys want to know about basketball, stick around because after us, Crunch Time is free. One Andy Means, but we talking basketball all the way up to lock, and it's a crossover. Dave Potts, $1 Million Musings, he'll be on as well too. Today it is free, premium. Obviously, you guys got to get RG Premium. How do you do that? You get yourself $10 off the first month. The link's gonna be dropped in chat. What up, chat? Feel free to like, subscribe, turn on notifications, do all the good stuff. Fire off some questions as well, too. Devin will be compiling those, our producer extraordinaire. He'll be jumping on the show about 15 minutes or so, give or take. And, baseball questions. We're talking baseball. There you go. And again, basketball, save him for Andy, who's going to be on later, or hit the rewind button because Head Chopper and Kirk Dees talk basketball. And Tuttle, one thing's for sure, if you talk about basketball at 4:30, that information definitely does not expire, right? That's good to go.
Never.
You can just lock in and have yourself some dinner and watch some Space Jam, and you're good. There won't be any scratches or anything, as far as I know.
Nope, not at all. No big injury news to follow. Nothing like that.
I see a question in chat. What's the best sequel? The answer is it's Godfather. Godfather 2. There's no other answer, is there?
I mean, you haven't watched Space Jam.
You haven't seen Godfather.
I haven't seen Godfather 2.
There are two kinds of people in the world.
And I've never sat down and watched Godfather in full viewing.
Oh, come on, man. Like, you got to do it. Knock out. I mean, you have like how many kids you have going on? It's probably not for the kids.
It's only four.
Okay. All right. But it's long, too. They're very long. So it's hard. Naked Gun 2.5. There's another fun sequel.
Didn't see it. Mighty Ducks. This is more on we got Mighty Ducks in chat. That's more on my level.
Are you watching the reboot?
The remake? I don't know. I probably will just with the kids. See, when you have kids, you have to find a show that doesn't like make you want to just rip your hair out. Like you can kind of enjoy on the side to watch with them. So Mighty Ducks remake would qualify as that.
Are the kids old enough for Karate? It's a little bit of adult. The Karate Kid.
We Karate Kid, not the remake. We watched the original movie though. Karate
but
Kid.
not the third one, right? You didn't watch the Karate Kid 3. Pretend like that didn't happen.
I've never even watched it.
Oh, it happened. And then
I'm not as cultured as you.
There is the next Karate Kid starring Hilary Swank, who went on to win 2 Oscars, but missed the next Karate Kid. It's not very good. Hey, We're talking baseball. We can have this kind of conversation because it's only a 6-gamer. It's pretty relaxing as far as what's going down tonight. And yesterday, myself and Cardi and Blender, we kind of gave like a little this is what MLB DFS is like. And we talked to plays, but you can only talk so much. And there was 3 of us. This is a little bit more of an intimate setting. It's more relaxing. Just 6 games going down tonight. Interesting schedule too, because only 1 game, 7-10, by the way. The greatest thing about baseball is like the game's locks at 7-10, not 7. You don't sit around for 10 minutes. And guess what, Tuttle? When the game locks at 7-10, you know what happens at 7-10? A pitch is thrown. How cool is that?
I know that is annoying with basketball. It's one of the most annoying things.
Do you have like a general, what is your general approach to MLB DFS? And then, and if you want to apply to this slate, and when we talk about pitchers and hitters and all the good stuff in a second and stacking, it's very, very clear. You don't need us, if you guys are watching, you don't need us to tell you that like the Dodgers, who are in Coors Field, they're the best offense in all of baseball. They're facing the worst pitcher, matchup site neutral, ballpark neutral, taking the bump against Sensatella, and they have a total of 7.61. The people don't need us that like the Dodgers are a great play, but of course it's baseball, and like everybody can go for 4. These goofy things happen. You can hit home runs over the fence and not get a home run. Apparently, that's a rule. Justin Turner. So and then the Padres right there afterwards, right? So how do you get different and embracing variance? Go ahead.
I mean, it's kind of a slate that's, I think, kind of boring for cash games. You're going to be the cash game guy on the show, but you can talk about it. It's kind of a boring cash game slate because, cash games, you're not too worried about ownership. You just want to play the best plays, blah, blah, blah. And the best plays are, hey, the Dodgers and Coors against a guy that doesn't strike anybody out. So there's not too many ways to get kind of crazy in cash games. On the other hand, though, like this is either the most torturous GPP slate, or if you're sadistic and you love it, like it's a great GPP slate because we know exactly where the ownership's going to be concentrated. We know the ownership's going to be concentrated with the Dodgers bats, San Diego bats. You mentioned is probably the next in line, and we know where it's going to be concentrated for the most part with pitching as well. With Blake Snell taking up all the chalk, Kikuchi possibly taking up some of that as SP2 on DraftKings. As well as Pablo Lopez will be the higher owned than Kikuchi, but one of those two are basically going to be SP2. So we know where a lot of the ownership's going to concentrate. And as a GPP mind, you should like that, but it's also scary on a slate like this tonight because it's like it's good chalk tonight. Like it's not fragile chalk.
Yeah, this isn't like a terrible team in like a decent ballpark against a decent pitcher. That's not what it is. It's the best team in all of baseball against, in the best ballpark in all of baseball on a short slate. And Senzatella, probably the worst arm, taking the bump, amongst all the 12 pitchers going down tonight. Well, how sadistic are you? Well, have you decided what is your general approach as far as this evening?
I need your help. And,
how so?
Like my lineup is a blank slate. I'm running one main GPP lineup on DraftKings tonight. I literally have nobody in because I haven't decided yet. Like I'm either gonna eat some of the chalk with the Dodgers and maybe get a little bit more crazy, maybe do a bottom of the half type of stack, mix and match different guys that, some of the Dodger hitters might be a little bit lower owned than others. I think the general approach on DraftKings with how the salary is tonight, like Will Smith is going to project as the top catcher option, but I don't think he's actually going to catch that much ownership because of they're going to pay up elsewhere. So you can get exposure to like a Will Smith at relatively low ownership on a slate like tonight, just because he's not as good as the other hitters in the order, but like, he has all the same environmental factors going for him. So maybe a bottom of the half order, half stack. I still haven't figured it out. And then the other team I wanted to go to was San Diego when I originally looked at the slate, but it doesn't sound like that's going to be unique enough either. Like,
no.
But I don't know. We'll see. Like San Diego going up against Merrill Kelly, guy throws strikes, not a huge strikeout pitcher. And we're going to get a lot of balls in play in San Diego, which is exactly what you want. So those were obviously are the top two teams. So I'm trying to figure out if I want to get really sneaky and go somewhere else, or if I just want to try to eat the chalk, but mix and match it in a way that kind of gives me a little bit more unique of an approach.
Yeah, we'll get to Smith, but like the thing with Smith is like he's so real good. He's not like a good hitting catcher. He's just a good hitter. Yeah. And another thing that kind of throws me off, I think it's worth talking about. Like Lux is one of those guys, has a nice price. He's another good hitter. I think we saw him get double swapped out yesterday, and that's just sort of the DH being gone in the National League. And to me, like this is something that chases me away, and maybe that's a negative, and I should embrace it. I should be sadistic. Like batting eighth in the National League is just the worst. I have this mental block where I have such a hard time rostering guys that are batting eighth for multitude of reasons. The pitcher hitting behind you. Maybe you get walked. Maybe you're chasing bad pitches. You're not going to get knocked in. Less chance of getting knocked in. Do you have a hang up on that, or is that just me? Because I hate rostering players batting eighth in the National League. No,
totally have a hang up too, which is why some of these guys will go a little like if this were a full slate, I think you would see again, Lux could be a guy that you could potentially take a stand on and go a little bit overweight on. But it's a small slate. Second base kind of sucks. So Lux is going to be like, he's going to be chalk still. So it's not like if you're fading this spot, or if you're playing this spot, you're probably eating some of the chalk with everybody else. So I think a lot of the reasons that you just said were probably fairly decent reasons to fade him, like pinch hit, risk, batting eighth, potentially he just gets walked, that type of thing. I think those are good reasons to potentially fade a guy who I don't know. Let me bring up what we have him projected at for ownership, but like he's going to be owned because again, the position is terrible. We have 60% ownership on him on DraftKings, and I wouldn't be surprised if he was a little higher than that.
And Roberts is notorious for his double switches, and they lost Peterson, and Peterson got swapped out all the time last year. They lost Kike. Enrique, and is now in Boston, so maybe a little bit less apt, but I still think that's going to be going down there in LA because they have a pretty deep bench as is. Just a solid bench. Guys that would be starting on our teams in the reg, but just because they're so good, you can't start everybody every single day. All right, let's start with the pitchers. I guess, well, the most expensive guy in DK is Trevor Bauer, and you're not getting a discount here in Colorado. Of course, that Coors team those hitters are not good. It's not a good collect. Nolan Arenado's gone. It's Trevor Story. The Pulp Fiction gif with just like kind of Trevor Story's looking around like, where's everybody else that's good? Where'd you guys go? But it's still in Colorado. You put the ball in play, good things happen because the ballpark is just so huge. From a BABIP perspective, Bauer was the nuts last year. He got paid. Good for him. But now he's in Coors, and we're not going to get discount. He's 10.5K. Snell's right below him, and it falls off really fast, by the way. This is the second best pitchers that these guys have to offer. We'll talk about it in a second. It's going to be ugly on Saturday and Sunday. But, yeah, Bauer, are you prioritizing him, or it's just like we're Xing him out because there's no Coors discount and, we can spend our funds elsewhere?
Not prioritizing him, certainly keeping him in the pool for tournaments. It'll be interesting. I'll be very interested to see where his ownership comes in. It's another play that kind of is hurt by this being such a small slate. Like bigger slate, nobody's playing Bauer on a bigger slate in the spot in Colorado, and you can get some decent ownership discount on him. I don't think he's going to come in like that discounted. We have him projected for 27% ownership on DraftKings still, which is third highest on the night. I'm not playing him in cash, but he is a guy that I want in GPPs. Like you look at the Colorado lineup, you alluded to it. If you go to our Plate IQ tool, I'm still sorting by the 2019 to 2020 seasons. Like there's a lot of strikeouts in that lineup against right-handed pitching, especially the bottom half of the order. He's gonna mull through those guys. So the thing about Coors is, yes, it's good. It's very helpful when you actually put the ball in play, but you have to put the ball in play. Bauer might not allow them to do that. So yeah, Bauer, again, great GPP play. Wish he was going to be lower owned than he's going to be, but I'll still have him in tournaments.
It's this weird thing. Like if Bauer pitched yesterday, what would his ownership have been? Like maybe 1/5 of what it will be tonight?
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, no, like people, he would be definitely on GPP players' minds still for sure, but not at 27% ownership.
And you look at that lineup, I'm pulling up Plate IQ as well. And like you, I'm stretching to the 2019, 2020 seasons, which is basically a year and a third. That's more or less what it is. And 26.1% as far as collectively striking against right-handers. Bauer, a 30% K rate. Tapia, Fuentes, it's Story. Blackman is, not what he used to be. He's still fine, but he's not the guy we once loved playing. CJ Cron, plenty of power, but also he's got to hit the ball because he'll whiff plenty as well. And then McMahon, Owens, and Nunez are all guys that will strike out a ton. It's backloaded with some Ks. And of course, there's the pitcher as well, too, which you get at least once, possibly twice, depending how things are going. And then there's Blake Snell, who, coming from Tampa, he hasn't pitched 6 innings in a year and a half or something like that. Now he's in San Diego, another franchise that kind of sort of babies its arms. Maybe that's one of the reasons why he selected there. No, he was traded to San Diego, wasn't he? I believe he was. Yeah, but he's in the National League. He's against an Arizona lineup that's fine, I guess. There's certainly some decent, competent bats in there. Super cheap if you want to go contrarian as far as the bats. We'll talk about them soon enough. But I think Snell is like the guy you're making. You have the funds for. It's not that hard to make things work. And we'll talk about it. We kind of talked about a pre-show, assuming that Andrew Vaughn, this is the cash game conversation, Andrew Vaughn cracks the lineup for the White Sox.
We just got it, batting 5th.
Yeah, I mean, and how heavily owned is he going to be? Because that's the key to unlocking, one of the keys to unlocking the slate. There are several other options, but yeah, 2K Andrew Vaughn, one of the front runners as far as winning the American League Rookie of the Year this season. I know Andrew Heaney, pretty solid bat, but and Vaughn will miss the ball, but he's got tons of power. And batting 5th tonight at 2K on DK is going to be, for sure. I don't want to speak. I hate speaking in definitives because God forbid I change it. And you said you're for sure 100%. That's the plan. We're going to be playing him for cash games. And I think it'll be an interesting conversation. What do you do with him in tournaments? Because if he's 35, 40% in tournaments, it seems like an easy fade, but maybe you just want to go overweight and lock it in for 100%. Back to Snell. He's the premium arm tonight. And I think you have the funds to get him, certainly in cash. What say you as far as cash and, talk about tournaments, obviously.
Yeah, 100%. He's the arm to get in cash. I will say in GPP, I probably am a little bit more interested in just paying up for Trevor Bauer over Snell. I think Snell is going to project the best. He projects better than Bauer, but I do think there's enough of an ownership ownership gap between the two. And I do think there's enough unknown in terms of Snell's situation too. Like you don't think it can get worse, right? Like he can't have a shorter leash, at least you would think with his new team, but maybe they treat him just the same. And if that's the case, like we're still looking at a 5-inning pitcher who's, can still do all right for fantasy purposes. But obviously when you're only pitching or throwing 5 innings, you're going to have your upside limited a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, look how they babied a different guy, but Dinelson Lamet, same organization. They always baby that guy, and he's always nursing injuries too. And Snell certainly has had his issues at times. So, and also San Diego cares about September. They don't care about today. We're assuming San Diego is going to make the playoffs, right? Same thing with the Dodgers. You have that same conversation, and they want to be good to go then, and there's no reason to kind of burn them out. Certainly not as a first start of the season. We talked about Andrew Heaney, solid arm. If you talk about the K percentage on the season or the last 2 seasons, he's third amongst all the guys going today, 27.3%. Luzardo's up next, who's got a live arm as well too. And speaking of babying pitchers, how long is Oakland going to let Luzardo go? I mean, you're not looking for 100 pitches, but 85. If you can get 85, he's certainly interesting as well. Your SB2s, and I guess we talked about this pre-show. Kikuchi is super cheaper. He's way too cheap on DK. He seems like the quote unquote cash game SB2, but if he's going to be super heavily owned, you mentioned Lopez for Miami. On the other side, Tampa Yarbrough, it's another guy like you don't really know if he's even starting the game, if he's going to get an opener. I assume, as far as we know, he's starting the game, right? I kind of like I like the opener because it extends his chances to get a win. He's going to be more likely around in the 5th inning or the 6th inning, so that doesn't deter me. But we've seen them be kind of goofy with him. But the Marlins inept offense. Yarbrough, I think, should be good enough. SB2, there's nobody clear cut for me. What say you? Because it's kind of sort of who fits, but I think it's Kikuchi because I want to get those Dodgers and he's cheap.
Yeah, in cash, I really do think it's between Kikuchi and Pablo Lopez. I think those are the two you're looking at. I think they allow you the salary savings you need, like you said, just for lineup construction purposes on DraftKings. I think those are the guys. Yarbrough, I think, is an easy out. Get him out of almost all your builds or most of your builds on DraftKings. Like the price tag's not what I want it to be on DraftKings. He's 8,300. If I want to get exposure to Yarbrough in tournaments, it's going to be on FanDuel where he's 6,800, much more reasonably priced over there. The guy that I wanted to come in and be, hey, this is the guy I'm playing in tournaments is Jesus Luzardo.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like you have bring plate IQ back up and you look at the Houston lineup, like it's so hard to find strikeout. Like
where are the Ks? Yeah,
exactly. Like Ks are king in DFS. Like that's what you want. Where is Luzardo going to get these? Yes, he might just be skillful enough to get them all by himself, and pitch well enough that he's going to be okay. But 17.6% combined strikeout rate in the 2019 to 2020 seasons against left-handed pitching for that Houston lineup. Like Luzardo is the guy I want, but there's obvious downside there. Like there's just so much more downside when your pitcher's not racking up strikeouts, and he doesn't really project to rack up strikeouts against this matchup.
Yeah, and two of the bigger K options like Maldonado and Straw are batting 8 and 9, and maybe Luzardo just goes through the lineup 3 times. Maybe he goes through the lineups 3 times with the exclusion of the last 2 hitters, so he doesn't get to pick on the most vulnerable of striking out. Because I don't how much do you think they push Luzardo? We know a lot of people love him, love his arm, but again, another guy, history of arm issues. Oakland's not going to run him to the ground, so not opening day. Yeah, it's hard to get excited about it, and like you said, Altuve 12% as far as striking out, Brantley at 14.9, Bregman at 12, Tucker 16.7. Not a lot of Ks there. I like him, but I don't know if I like him tonight. Good ballpark, we'll give him that.
Well, here's a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you want the much more talented pitcher against a harder lineup to strike out, or do you want the washed up guy going up against one of the worst lineups on the slate, or the most strikeout heavy lineups in the slate, in Johnny Cueto versus the Seattle Mariners?
Oh man, Johnny Cueto.
Can you pull the trigger? Because that's what it comes down to if you're looking at GPP pitchers in this price range. Because we kind of already mentioned, like, Pablo Lopez is going to carry ownership, Andrew Heaney is going to carry ownership. So some of these guys that you could potentially pivot to, it's like, do you want the more talented guy, or do you want the guy in the better matchup?
I like watching Cueto pitch. He's got all the guile and all the gyrations, and he tries to fool you because he's got nothing left in that arm, right? Yeah. He's lost a lot of velocity over the years. But like you said, Haniger is leading off there for Seattle at 28% as far as striking out. White is a big K guy. Moore, lots of Ks. Fraley, lots of Ks. 27% as far as the Ks. Trammell, I know Trammell's a young guy. I don't know if is his MLB debut. I think it is.
Yeah, I think it might be. Here's the thing too, like, don't talk yourself into Johnny Cueto.
Yeah.
But like here's the thing. So we went through the lineup. The other thing though is these Seattle guys are going to be owned. So like if we're thinking about any sort of leverage on the slate, like Jesus Luzardo, like these Houston guys aren't going to see heavy ownership. But if you go to some of these Seattle guys, like Haniger is only 3-1 on DraftKings, he's going to be owned. Some of these guys are so cheap for Seattle that they're going to probably get ownership into the 20% range or around there. So in terms of leverage options, like I do think Cueto would be like the just want to throw up in your mouth when you push the button and click him into your lineup. But I think he has some decent things going for him in terms of tournaments tonight. Basically
a direct pivot off of Lopez. Well, if you want to play the Dodgers and you want to get chalky, like that's one way to play the Dodgers where it's not as chalky.
Yep.
But like like you said, hold your nose. Hopefully, it's he's fun to watch just from a fan experience, from a DFS experience, not so much. I like Andrew Heaney. I don't know if a matchup against power righties is where I want him though. And that's what the White Sox present. I know they're without Eloy Jimenez, which kind of hurts their offense, but again, there's still plenty of pop in those bats there. Anderson's really solid. Robert Abreu, Moncada. We talked about Vaughn, Grandal, super solid professional hitter. He gets a little weak there at the end, but yeah. And also we've seen Heaney in the Madden pull him kind of early at times. He's gotten early hooks. I try not to be too paranoid about these things. And is he in the conversation for you as far as pitchers?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like projection wise, he's going to rate well. I think the last time I ran the bat projections and optimals, he was in optimal lineups. So he's going to be owned. And it's because he has a decent strikeout rate. He's going up against a lineup though that doesn't strike out a ton. Like there's a few strikeout hitters in that order, in the middle of the order with Moncada there. But like White Sox in general, they're actually much better against left-handed pitching in terms of strikeout rate than I kind of remember. So like if he's going to project to be in optimal lineups and he's going to project to carry ownership into the 30% range, which I think he is, again, it's probably a spot where I would rather fade and, hold my nose and plug in Johnny Cueto or someone else as a pivot off of him.
Yeah. I mean, even Madrigal at the bottom of the lineup, and not a particularly imposing bat, but he hasn't struck out versus a lefty. Small sample size, 24 bats, in the last 2 seasons, but like you said, K's are king, and you don't want the pass that has like the 8 or 9 or 10 pitch at bat and like works a walk, or even like if you're throwing 10 pitches, I want to strike out. I don't even want the pop up or the ground out. Give me the K. Like, give me the value for these 10 pitches.
Yeah. Do you have that lineup pulled up right now? Like I just pulled it right back up, and I mean it's basically the same thing as we were talking about with Luzardo. Like where are the K's here? Like there's Yohan Moncada. Like that's the guy that's going to strike out in the middle of the order. Maybe Yasmani Grandal a little bit. Everybody else over the last 2 seasons under 18% or under 19% strikeout rate against left-handed pitching. So if you look at it from that standpoint, and you have Andrew Heaney pitching against a fairly similar lineup to what Jesus Luzardo is pitching against, like again in GBPs, give me the guy that's going to be lower owned. Like these guys, Heaney's going to project better, but give me the guy that's going to be lower owned in tournaments.
We haven't seen Mercedes. I just pulled up the bat projection on Fangraphs, 22.7% as far as his K percent projected for this season, for what it's worth. I believe this is his MLB debut as well. I don't recognize that name. I don't think I know that person. Anything else that's
worth
it? Yermin Mercedes? Yermin?
Oh, yeah. Catcher, right?
Yeah. Let's see, is anybody else worth acknowledging? Javier, kind of, sort of, somewhat. We can acknowledge him. He had a big K rate in the minors, at 25% in the majors last year, small sample size. I think he had some walk issues, and Oakland tends to be pretty patient, which is somewhat concerning. But I think he's got to be in the tournament. If you're somebody that's making 50 lineups, I think he's got to crack at least a couple, no?
Yeah. He's another guy. Like you said, his minor league numbers made his strikeout rate look a little bit better than what we've seen in the majors so far. But yeah, GPP pool for me, which is crazy because the only guy I've basically crossed out so far is Ryan Yarbrough. I guess I would strike out Keuchel for my GPP pool too. I just don't think he has the strikeout upside. Merrill Kelly, I'm not playing. Sensatella I'm not playing, but pretty much and everybody else I have at least a little bit of appeal.
Why are you just crossing out Yarborough? Because I know he's not a big K guy. We're looking at 19.5%, but this Marlins lineup's not particularly imposing.
It's mostly,
you don't think he's going to go very deep? Yeah,
it's strikeout thing. I don't think he's going to go deep enough. I mean, that's obviously a little bit negated first start of the season. Everybody's probably going to have a little bit of a leash, so that at least is negated a little bit. I would have some interest in Yarborough if he was under that 7K price point. Then we're starting to talk about him potentially being a cash game option alongside Pablo Lopez. But at 8,300, like, hey, maybe that's a reason to play him though. 8,300, I just can't find myself pulling the trigger on him.
I can't believe the pitchers are this bad, and this is like game 2. And it's I think DeGrom's going to pitch on Monday, and he's gonna be like the only one amongst all the 5s. That's going to be a while. That's going to be a great. That's going to be an amazing
80%
slate.
owned.
Yeah, I was just kind of thinking about that because I think all the 5, depending on how it goes, the 4s and the 5s, and but yeah, DeGrom he's going to be super popular on Monday. This is Daily Fantasy Sports. All we care about is today and today only. As for today, give me the summary. How are you attacking arms before we talk about bats?
So summary, cash games, Blake Snell, throw him in there. SP2 on DraftKings, you're probably between Lopez and Kikuchi. And that's about where your cash game pool likely ends. You could throw Haney into the mix if you're feeling it, but I don't want him in my cash game mix personally. Tournaments, then for pivots, we're looking at like a Trevor Bauer if you can pay up. He's not going to be super low owned, but he does have one of the highest ceilings on the slate. Completely okay going there. Pivots off of Haney, if we think he's going to see 30% owned, is like a Jesus Luzardo. If we want to get real ugly with it and just pray that somehow the Mariners keep striking out like crazy, Johnny Cueto is the guy.
Oh man, like maybe first time through they might get confused and like what he's doing out there, but they might catch on the second time. We shall see. But oh boy, this slate's weird. Like it's almost like it's not like NBA, but I'm just thinking in my head like you can fade the first game. It's a 6-game slate. The first game's at 7:10. The next game's not till 8:40, and you didn't sound like you love Yarborough and you like Lopez.
I don't know if I'm gonna have anybody locked in this. Like if I was in cash games, it would be Lopez would be my SP2 on tonight's slate. Kikuchi, I just have like that again, strikeouts king, 40 or Giants, not 49ers. I don't even know how I got there. Giants don't strike out a ton either. Like Kikuchi showed a little bit more promise last season, increasing his velocity, increasing his strikeout rate. He carried some of that over into spring training as well. But in terms of upside, like, yeah, it's okay. And he's 6K, but I think Pablo Lopez would be the SP2 for me in cash games.
All right, we're going to go around the horn in just a second as far as giving our favorite plays at each position. Do you want to say hello once again to chat? Feel free to like, subscribe, turn on notifications, ask some questions. Devin, our producer, is going to be compiling those questions. Tell us what site, FanDuel, DK, wherever, if it's tournament, if it's cash, what you're debating. Overarching questions are best. Do you like this deck? If you want to say, hey, do you like, I don't know, Luis Robert or Jose Abreu tonight? I suppose you can ask that, but I don't know. They're both fine. Do you have like those questions are always sort of tough, and I'm sure you have a great time answering those on crunch time. But yeah, and there's always so much more context that needs to be added to that. But and also, she's as good. Dave Potts, along with Andy Means, it's free tonight on crunch time, so stay tuned. And Kevin Roth will tell you some weather as far as if there's any weather issues lurking. He'll give you the most up-to-date update as far as that. Haven't seen anything too crazy as far as weather tonight, but it can be fickle, especially this time of year. All right, catchers. I know you're excited to talk about catchers. More of a DK thing than a FanDuel thing, although I think you can play Smith at 3.5K on FanDuel. I'm good with that price if it kind of makes things work. As far as DK, are we looking to just play the catcher that's in our stack, or you got a different approach?
Yeah, I mean, that's the approach for tournaments. Cash, you're just punting. And I think, I don't even know how to pronounce the name. Campusano? Luis Campusano?
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, that has to be the cash guy. Like, if you're just punting the position, which I do think is the move because, hey, we want to play our Dodger bats elsewhere. Then Campusano batting 7th for the Padres is the move. He's going to be, I think, cash game chalk. But otherwise, in tournaments, pair it with your stack.
Yeah, I mean, like there's a cheap Colorado catcher facing Bauer, Dom Nunez, but he's batting 8th, and we talked about that. And depending on how the game goes, the guy that might get pitch hit 4th. They needed somebody in a spot. Grandal, of course, against Heaney is certainly interesting, but you got to pay for it at 4.9K. That's more of a tournament thing, far as I'm concerned. I don't really think there's much else to say as far as catcher. We shall move on and talk about first base. And again, Dave Potts, Jesus good. He's giving us breakdown position by position. following us soon enough. First base, who does it for you tonight? Well, Andrew Vaughn, first base and outfield eligible. I'm not sure which one you're playing him at, to be honest, yet. I haven't worked it out because I hit the stall button. I'm like, well, I can make lineups at 840. I'm good to go. But at some point, I think you want Vaughn at least in your cash game. And as far as tournaments, he's probably going to be really popular as well, too.
Yeah, so the argument against him, I think, in tournaments would be it just gets you a different lineup construction. Like if you, again, you're just maybe hoping, paying up at first base as opposed to saving at first base is going to get you more raw points, and that it kind of works out elsewhere. From like a point per dollar perspective, Vaughn is obviously a great option. He's going to be the guy I think that make cash game lineups work. Again, you punt catcher, you punt first base or outfield with Vaughn in one of those spots, and hey, you're good to go. But in GPPs, I do think there's certainly merit to fading him. We have him, I think 33% ownership was what it was looking at. Oh no, we only have him 7% projected ownership.
That's
He'll be
gonna
higher
change.
than that for sure.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned on that one.
Give me the pivots away from Muncy, of course, 5.3K, one of the power bats there in Coors Field. You prefer the lefties as opposed to the righties for Sensatella. They're all good. And Sensatella is not going to stick around the entire game either, but Muncy certainly well positioned. Don't give that one, but give me like your favorite pivot away from Vaughn and Muncy as far as a power bat that might not, or it doesn't have to be power, I assume, but that could be a little bit different in tournaments.
So it probably, I went on the spiel about how Johnny Cueto might be the GPP guy, but like Evan White would be the guy with power 2,700. He's the pretty decent pivot. And I do think you'll see lineups with both Vaughn and White in them, with Vaughn without field eligibility as well. I think that will be a fairly popular lineup construction. If we're paying up to be contrarian, I think Matt Olson's the guy. Javier has had some struggles at times against left-handed hitters. So I do think Olson would be the kind of pay up to be contrarian if you don't want to play Muncy at the position.
So Evan White, the last 2 seasons, he's had 135 plate appearances against right-handers, and his K rate is 44.4%. Good Lord. But when he hits it, he's got a 213 ISO. And he's not going to strike out. And if you sim it 1,000 times, he's not going to strike out 1,000 times. I don't think. Well, not 1,000, but like he's probably not going to strike out 44% of the time versus Cueto. I don't think. Just interesting. I always like those guys that the big K guys that have big power versus guys that fix the contact. So there's that, I suppose. And he's super cheap, obviously.
Yep.
Keystone position, second base. We kind of alluded to Gavin Lux earlier, batting 8th. Which whatever, and Ketel Marte, he got bumped up. We'll give him that. Still tough matchup, but like 3.3K, still disrespectful if you ask me. Wilmer Flores, I'm told he hits lefties pretty well.
He's a lefty smasher.
Lefty. Did you see Derek Hardy troll people in the bat? He's got this lefty masher chart. Did you happen to check this out or no?
No, I haven't seen it.
So he has this chart that says like lefty masher. I can't remember how he phrased it, but like you click this link and it's like it'll tell you if someone's a lefty masher or not. And he literally lists every single player. Is he a lefty masher? No.
Everything.
No. And at the end, it says like April Fools or something like that. It was pretty good. Well done, Cardi. But some people would say that Wilmer Flores happens to be a lefty masher. Second base, what are you doing?
I think you mentioned the most owned guys, just in terms of cash games and lineup builds, I think will be Kevin Lux and Ketel Marte. I think kind of a cheap option I like quite a bit that I don't think we'll see a ton of ownership is Jay Cronenworth. We kind of had some hopes, or there was some hopes when the day started, that he would hit second. Pham is still hitting second, but Cronenworth is still hitting 6. Again, talked about Kelly throwing a lot of strikes, there should be a decent amount of contact in that game for the Padres hitters. Cronenworth should have some RBI opportunities, that sort of thing. So I'm definitely okay there. The other guy for tournaments, if you wanted to kind of pivot off of Marte, who I think is going to see decent ownership, would be like a Chris Owings. Again, these Rockies hitters, yes, it's a terrible matchup. But hashtag Coors, hey, good things happen at Coors.
Have you heard it's a good place to hit baseballs?
Yeah, so maybe if he gets the bat on the ball, gets into that big outfield, can get another triple or something like he did yesterday. But Owings, I think, is the kind of the low price pivot.
For what it's worth, by Pham leading off, Tatis batting second. I know you said second, doesn't matter, but close enough.
Oh yeah, my bad.
Cronenworth batting 6th. Isn't it beautiful? Every single lineup is out. Thank you, managers. Even the West Coast games, we got every single starting lineup. That is awesome. Every once in a while, I get that leg scratch, but it's pretty rare, so it's fun to sort of work with there. All right, let's jump to third base, the hot corner. What do you have for me? Who are you prioritizing? Machado, little bit more expensive than Justin Turner. Is Justin Turner going to make good for his goof yesterday? He's in Coors Field, and I hear it's a good place to hit the ball. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a decent park. Turner, yeah. I'm looking at the bat projections, bat axe actually projections right now. Justin Turner is projected for 2.3 more points more than the next guy in line, which is Manny Machado. Like, this is the pay up spot in cash. This is why you're saving at second base, first base, because we want to pay elsewhere. We want Bellinger in our lineup. We want Justin Turner in our lineup, and Justin Turner is pretty easy to get. If you want to pivot in the high price range, Rendon's probably the guy for me over Machado. Rendon against Keuchel. I'm trying to think if there's any like low price guys that are really like Fuentes batting second again. Hey, hashtag Coors.
Once upon a time, Evan Longoria used to smash lefties. He used to be a lefty masher.
Yeah, I actually, as crazy as it sounds, I had him in more FanDuel builds than DraftKings builds. But yeah, Longoria is certainly fine as well.
He had shown the ability. There was a flashback last night. Longoria and Buster Posey homered last night, which I wonder when the last time that happened. Those two guys homered in the same day. It feels like
bunch of old guys.
Yeah. Hey, shout out to the old dudes. It's weird. You mentioned projections in baseball, and like for hitter, it's kind of silly, but like I understand. I look at them too, and they matter. But like I hear people talk, oh, this guy's got to do this to get value. I hear people talk, there's no value. Like this guy's got to reach value. You're just trying to get the best.
You're not trying to 3x
collection.
plus 9 or whatever the equation is for basketball.
Arms are more predictive than bats. I use projections more so for pitchers, and I imagine you do as well too. I think just once you get a better number, generally, unless you're Luis Castillo or Kyle Hendricks. Let's not talk about yesterday. It did not go well for your boy. Anything else up there that's worth talking about, or shall we move on? And you mentioned Rendon. He's also a guy against the lefty. He is facing Keuchel, who's a big ground ball guy, doesn't give a ton of homers.
Yep.
But everybody else knows that too, I think. So he probably, and there's no discount. There's no discount for Rendon. So he's going to be basically buried. The ballpark's not necessarily appealing either. But let's jump back to, we got to move forward because we only got so much longer until we make way for Crunch Time, which again is free. If you guys don't have RG Premium and you want Crunch Time going forward, get yourself 1 month, 10% off all the sports, or just one sport. Why would you just get all sports? Get all sports. You get basketball too. You can get all the scratches every 3 seconds. That's a lot of fun. All right, shortstop. What do you have for me?
I mean, the absolute chalk is going to be Corey Seager. Obviously.
Yeah, sure.
Like, great play. But hey, there are a couple other really good hitters at this position that are then not going to be as highly owned. So Fernando Tatis, we still have Tatis projected as high owned at 6K. But then like Trevor Story would be the other pivot. Again, not a good matchup, but he's a good hitter. But I do think it's a pretty easy spot where you can pay up to be contrarian with some of those other options. If you want to go cheap, like Mauricio Dubon, bottom of the order against Kikuchi, but he's only 2,700. I will say this is a position that has so many strong bats on the top end of it that you probably won't see a whole lot of people take the lineup construction path where you're saving at shortstop. So like, hey, if you want to do that and just hope that it kind of gets you to a little bit of different lineup construction, I think there could be some merit to it. It's just that there's not a ton of guys that I love here. Miguel Rojas, I guess, is worth a mention as well, leading off against Yarbrough. This Miami team can be sneaky at times, and they can put the ball in play. Like, and we talked about Yarbrough, he doesn't get a lot of strikeouts, so it wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world for me to for the Marlins to single to death Yarbrough tonight. Like, that's not great for stacks per se, but it can give you some pretty decent one-offs.
All right, jumping to the outfield, we talked, Bellinger and Betts, they're both super expensive, but you can find ways to make it happen. Haniger, I believe he's leading off tonight. Is he not for Seattle? Is that where he was? Yeah. Yep, not the prototypical leadoff hitter, but Mitch Haniger batting leadoff, 3.1K. Disrespectful when you consider his power over the years. We talked about Vaughn. You can throw him in the outfield as well. Meadows, they bumped his price up, but I still don't think it's high enough. I think Meadows is legit, like a really, really good hitter. We talked about how cheap he was yesterday. Don't really want to pick on Lopez. Don't really love that ballpark, but for sure, Meadows is in play. Ketel Marte, another guy you can throw in the outfield. Is Mike Trout going to be neglected in this slate? Probably. Is that a mistake?
For sure. in terms of cash games, not a mistake.
Well, yeah.
In terms of tournaments, probably a little bit of a mistake. Yeah. And the other thing is here, we talked about using Andrew Vaughn as potentially a cheap outfield option. I think there is another guy that's going to be significantly lower owned, and I think he's actually a pretty decent play. We talked about him a little bit earlier, Taylor Trammell, or Trammell, I should say. Like he's got a little pop, he's got a little speed. I saw in chat mention like, hey, this Seattle field safe co, like it's not that bad for home runs. I think the comment was they saw balls flying out of there last night. The thing is, like, it's not bad. It's not a bad stadium for home runs in terms of park factors. It's viewed as a pitcher's park, but it's actually pretty neutral in terms of home runs. So it certainly doesn't shy me away from taking guys that I might be able to get a little bit of cheap power from.
I feel like maybe 5 or 6 years ago, Seattle was like the top park as far as yielding actual homers. So somebody fact checked me on that, but I'm fairly certain that was a thing. Like maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And there's probably some, kind of an anomaly to some degree, but like you said, it's not nearly as bad as its reputation. I would agree with that as well. Anybody else? By the way, Mr. Tuttle, you have to like AC Slater, Austin Slater, especially on FanDuel. I think he's 2.5K if you want to make things work. I assume he's batting a leadoff once again. Not as a 3.5 is fine, on DK if you want to do that. But, and I love hitters on the road, batting the number 1 spot. Assuming things go fairly well, you're locked in for those 5 ABs. And
dude, is that a mental thing for you too?
Oh yeah, my ABs are
teams?
precious. Oh yeah, absolutely. It's like one of those tiebreakers, and that's more the cash brain thing, obviously. And also, if your team's up 17-4, right, and it's the 8th inning, your team's still going to hit the 9th. Yeah. And if you're at home, you don't get that 9th inning where you absolutely pummel the shortstop. You might get it in the bottom of the 8th, but yeah, I think that matters to some degree. No, is that not a thing for you?
No, it 100% is, but it's like almost too much of a thing. Like I definitely place too much weight on it. Like you said, it should basically be used as a tiebreaker, but I use it as more than that on times or sometimes.
I've done a terrible job. You said time. I've done a terrible job of time. We need Devin to jump on the show because he's got to ask some questions on behalf of the chat. We were just yammering too much. I'll take all the blame, Devin. What's going on? And I guess you got some questions for us on behalf of the chat.
Hi guys. Sorry.
Do we have any questions?
Yeah, we have plenty of questions so far.
Perfect.
First of all, we touched on that best sequel. I thought that was a great way to start out. I have
being sarcastic or not?
No, I'm not, because I have my thoughts on that. I'm like right in the middle of your two Venn diagrams. I've seen both Space Jam and I have watched the Godfather trilogy.
Okay. And which is better?
Shocker, Dean. I'm not excited for the Space Jam sequel, but I really enjoyed the sequel to Godfather.
There you go.
Alex Santi, friend of the show, wanted to know, does Vaughn multiply the White Sox stack ownership?
You could see it because of Vaughn and then catcher's name. Why can't I think of it? Mercino or Mercedes. Like, yeah, you could definitely see White Sox ownership in general get added. I don't think they're going to be extremely high still, but just because those two pieces are so easy to fit in, I do think it could increase ownership a little bit.
Hey, quick question, Vaughn. I imagine he's going to be like a super popular one-off with like Dodger stacks or Padre stacks. Now, is that something you go out of your way to avoid? Because that's going to happen, right? That's going to be pretty heavily owned, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on how weird you're getting at pitcher. Again, like you kind of alluded to it. Like if I'm going Cueto as one of my SPs, like bring on the chalk. Bring it on. But if I'm eating chalk at pitcher, then yeah, I definitely want to get a little bit more weird with some of my value plays.
All right, next one comes from Morningwood. They were a little worried about the ball really jumping out of the yard last night in Seattle. Are you guys concerned about Kikuchi for that reason?
Yeah, I don't have ball analysis, man. Like I mean, it's also like a sample size thing, and like, yeah, how was Buster Posey and Evan Longoria banging out these numbers? But yeah, and then supposedly the ball was going to be suppressed, that it wasn't going to be suppressed. It doesn't make any sense to suppress it. I don't have a take on this. Like I assume it's like, I don't know how to read it. I don't assume it's just going to jump, but maybe it does.
It's also 1 game sample size, which would make Cardi cringe just hearing it.
There you
go. Rob showed up a little late. Can we touch on our favorite cheap SPs again? We may have gone over this enough since the pitching portion. I feel like we kind of bounced back a little bit. But you guys have any other thoughts?
Yeah, Pablo Lopez and Kikuchi, I think, are the two cheap cash game pitchers on DraftKings.
All right. Shane wants to know FanDuel Cash, Snell, Lopez, or Heaney.
Do your best to get the Snell, obviously, depending on the arms are more predicted than the bats, right? And you want to lock in those quote unquote guaranteed points, which I use that term loosely.
Because it's baseball.
Because it's baseball and because it's opening day, you know, for these pitchers. And it's also Snell. But like in theory, you want to, I'll make up for, I can find the cheap bats easier in theory than the strong arms. But again, you're also, if it costs you 2 bats like from LA, then it's a good push-pull. But I'm trying to get to Snell is my answer.
All right, next one comes from Aaron. Betts or Bellinger? I almost said Bellinelli.
Yeah, you have that one.
Bellinelli,
It's like Betts or Bellinger.
Yeah, Bellinger.
2189 The One. That's their YouTube name. It's a mouthful. Wants us to touch on our favorite stack tonight.
Well, I mean, it's supposed to. So yeah, I mean, this is where you talk out of both sides of your mouth, right? Like the Dodgers are clearly the best.
Yeah.
If anybody tells you otherwise, they're lying. They don't look. They are the best stack, but what you have to factor in ownership and all that. So when you factor everything in, are you taking a stand pro con like with the field, or you're only making a couple lineups, so you have to take a definitive stand? Who's your favorite stack tonight?
If I'm not going to pick chalk. I'm not going to pick Dodgers. I'm not going to pick Padres.
Yeah.
If I'm not going there, gosh, it's so hard after that.
Yeah.
If I'm going to take Oakland. It's kind of the off the board favorite, potentially lower owned stack.
All right. PGH Sports Fan wants to know DK Cash, Snell, and Pablo. Is that a good pairing for you?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. If I need the pinch pennies, I'm okay going to Kikuchi, but I think Pablo should be fine. Yeah, and for what it's worth, I mean, I know you kind of poo-pooed him to some degree, but I think Yarbrough is fine. I don't love that price, but if I have enough, if I can make the salary work, and Vaughn's one of those guys who can kind of help me get there, I'm okay with Yarbrough and getting my 16 points. I think that's fine, but again, I'm not. I'm perfectly fine if I can get bigger bats. I'm mentioning kind of both ways, but if I can get the big Dodger bats and Kikuchi gets me there or Lopez gets me there, I'm okay settling with that. But yeah, I think those are your SP2 is Kikuchi, it's Lopez, and if you really somehow can make it work with the bats, it could be Yarbrough. That's for me, for cash.
All right. Pedro wants to know if we can get our home run picks for tonight. Who's going yard?
All right, you go first, Tuttle.
I was going to my cheap guy is Taylor Trammell.
All right. Devin, do you have one for the people?
Well, I'm hoping Corey Seager for my home run competition with the other RG crew here.
I forgot to get in on that this year. I screwed up. That was my bad. You know what? I want to go off the board. Let me Vaughn is just super chalk. I'm going to say Mitch Haniger. Is that off the board? He's going to hit one off of Cueto. How about that?
I think that's pretty good. Ryan wants to know FanDuel tournament, Luzardo and Moncada or Javier and Turner. Dodgers and White Sox are my 2 stacks.
I like the Luzardo side.
All right. Shane, same site, FanDuel tournament. Thoughts on a San Fran stack of Slater, Solano, and Longoria?
It doesn't get me overly excited, but I think the Giants are an okay vomit stack, as Blender would call it.
There you go, because somebody in chat was asking if we could channel our inner Blender and pick a vomit stack. Dean, would that be yours?
I think Miami would be
my
personal vomit stack.
I'm trying to embrace more Blender this year. Like I said the other day, I don't want to go full Blender. Only Blender can go full Blender, but I want to embrace that mentality to some degree. I don't do it enough in baseball, and you really should. And one game samples, whatever. You look at yesterday, it's all you need to see. And like goofy things happen in baseball. The best players in the world go for 5. Some of the worst players in the world they will be the best player on the slate that day. You never see that in basketball. It just doesn't happen. But maybe today, Darren Ruff, it's 2 homers. Like that might happen. Maybe.
There's Dean's call. Darren Ruff, lock it in. Let's see. We got just enough time for maybe another question or two. Jim wants to know who's projected for more ownership on FanDuel, Bauer or Snell?
I'm going to assume it's Snell, but you want to confirm that, Tuttle?
Yeah, I can bring it up.
Looks like Snell, 13 to
It's gotta be
33.
Snell. Yeah.
Could change, but for now. And that's about all the time we got, Dean. So why don't you go ahead and take us home?
Yeah, my apologies for reading in your time. Devin, I know you wanted 15 minutes to come on here and fire off questions on behalf of the chat.
We'll take it
Do
next
hit the
time.
like button. Hit the like button, subscribe. Hey, if you guys want an NBA, you could hit rewind, but that may have changed, and just stick around because Andy Means
Free crunch
he's
time.
talking some basketball. Yeah, crunch time is free. Stick around. You got Roth talking some weather. You got Dave Potts. Cheese is good. Really setting the table tonight as far as baseball. Watch The Godfather, Tuttle. Do that this weekend. Try to find yourself like 9 hours and watch
Easter
the trilogy.
weekend. Easter week. While the kids are looking for eggs, I'll throw on The Godfather.
There you go.
Them in really good places.
That's a good Sunday.
Make it where they can't reach or something like that. He was Tuttle. He was Devin. This was baseball. I was Dean. Enjoy baseball tonight. Stick around for crunch time. We're out of here. Oh!
But I want to show you some premium stuff. So we have two things here on RG. With the plate IQ projections, that's the RG projections. So it's not the bat projections that Cardi does. So we have a top MLB stacks and stack values. So basically our smash percentage type of thing. And it shows the average projection, the average salary. So here's the smash percentage, the likely of it finishing as the top overall value on the slate as a point per dollar basis. So on today's slate, as of right now, because obviously batting orders change and stuff like that, umpire assignments, who knows, weather changes. As of right now, it's not going to change that much. As long as the pitchers remain the same, these numbers typically don't change that much. We can see here the Dodgers have the highest smash, obviously. I mean, they have a 7+ implied run total in cores. 28%. They're going to be owned at about currently projected to be slightly under-owned. Are they going to be the top value? No. Likelihood not the top value. But top raw smash percentage, yes. Padres look to be over-owned. 11% smash, 20% owned. So looking at this, here's the White Sox. 9% smash, 3% owned. So now I'm looking there. Higher percent chance of smashing than there will be owned. Right? Seattle may be a little over-owned based on this. And then we get down to like marginal differences. So this is the smash percentage tool. It's for premium members. You can click on the link in the description, get $10 off your first month. Then we also have Slate IQ. Okay? As ownership changes, like these numbers will change. Typically, it's not going to be as dramatic, assuming that everyone, is still in the lineups and everything. Same pitchers and everything. So you could look at this at 11 o'clock in the morning, and it's not going to be dramatic. Probably won't be dramatically different. As long as ownership stays consistent. If it's not, then it could go all over the place. But here we have Slate IQ. There's another premium part of Rotogrinders. But I looking everything else, all these other things, stack type leverage and everything, typically stays about the same, like every slate. So I don't even bother looking at them. What the cash line is, whatever, like it's gonna be around the same no matter every slate. Typically by slate size, large slates versus small slates. The main part I'm looking at is the team stacking. So based on the simulations that Jamino has run, his hamsters, they're getting double duty this month. The hamsters are doing basketball and baseball. So you can see the percentage of the time the team is in the win. Basically, this is projected ownership and leverage for 4 or 5 hitter stacks based on results from the 25 most similar slates. So it's simulating it out. So we have here the percentage of the time that this team is in the winning lineup. Dodgers, 9.3%. 8.9% for the Padres. Giants, 6.9%. Seattle, 6.4%. And then you can see the field, the average ownership of the players of the lineup. So you're really looking for teams that are higher probability that'll be under-owned, be less owned. Doesn't mean you can't play the Dodgers. It just means that you need to find leverage or negative leverage. We can see here as of right now, the team with the highest probability based on our simulations as of right now, at the ownership levels that it's currently, everything, all the numbers stay the way they are right now. The Angels, 6.2% chance to win. They'll be owned at 4.5%. So that's positive leverage. Arizona, 4% chance to win, 2.2% owned. But you also get down to the bottom, like Tampa Bay, 1.6% chance of being the top stack in the winning lineup, 1.2% owned. So it has positive leverage, but it's also the lowest probability team. So just because it has positive leverage doesn't mean I got those are the only play. I got to play. I look here and I go, I'm going to play Tampa Bay, I'm going to play Arizona, and I'm going to play the Angels, and then not going to play anyone from any other teams. That's you shouldn't do that, right? There's still lower probability, still mixing in higher probabilities into your lineups as well. The projection, if you just played with those 3 teams, your projections are going to be way too low. Like, oh, I don't want any Dodgers one-offs in Coors. Like, why not? I don't want any Padres. No, why not? Every piece of your lineup doesn't have to be like plus EV individually. If you're going to leave 7,000 on the table and play low and projected players as all, your lineup sucks. Oh, but every individual thing looks done up, but your lineup sucks. You don't need every individual thing to be every part of your lineup has to be leveraged. No, of course not. Why wouldn't I want to play Dodgers with a 7+ run total? You can play 5-man Dodger stack, even though it's chalky. You just have to realize that it's negative leverage, which means you have to find leverage elsewhere. Just have to find more leverage. Not just like, oh, I'll play the Dodgers and just play the second highest owned pitcher or something. Like, that may not be enough. So this is what I use. So that's why with Cincinnati and Milwaukee yesterday, I saw that they were a high enough probability of winning, and they were under-owned. So I'll build some. I mean, on DraftKings, I played 50.
We knew something was coming, and you just never know what it is. What's up? Welcome to Crunch Time, everybody. The first crossover Crunch Time. Talking basketball, we got Mr. Andy Means. What up, Means?
I don't even know what to say. I knew he was getting a prop.
Yeah. He's like, I got to get this water. And Means is like, you're getting a prop, aren't you? He's like, no. It's just the water. We have cheese as well. Hey,
the
Cheese,
doctor said to be very careful around people like Meansy. His words, not mine. So, okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Meansy, how are you? How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Cheese?
I'm doing wonderfully.
It's been a while, guys. It's been a long time since we've had one of these crossover shows.
A couple seasons.
Yeah. We didn't have any last year, so good to be back at it. These can get a little bit hectic, but we can always get the information out to the people. Note that we do now have 2 Crunch Time channels in the Discord, NBA Crunch Time and MLB Crunch Time. So put your proper questions in the proper channels, and I will get to them properly. This is also a free show, so for everybody who is watching out on the YouTube, bang that like and subscribe button and enjoy. And just some of the best experts in the biz here helping you break down a slate. This was our thought here, was that we're going to start with a little bit of basketball for 10 minutes. We will then get some baseball for 10 minutes. We will then take basketball questions up until basketball lock. At that point, we will have the remaining time for baseball questions. Cheese, does that, you think that's going to work?
Yeah, I think the good thing to point out here, there's only one baseball game that starts within an hour of lock. Like the next 5 games are all really late. So, and that the first game is kind of the one you're probably playing the least. So as much as possible, hold off the baseball questions until of the NBA nonsense, like in that last 5 minutes when no one is playing anymore. Like we want to be able to talk about how exciting that is at the very end.
Right. Yeah, we can hold it over Meansy's head that we've got the superior sport, right, Cheese?
As what I've heard.
Roth, we have you on record. We have you on record. We have receipts.
Yeah, no, I am a basketball guy, but I'm trying to play it fair and even down the middle here for these crossover shows. Means I think it's time to start talking about a little bit of hoops here. I mean, we're not really in a rush, but you know, you got two sites to break down.
Yeah, 2 sites. I'll try to mix in a little tournament stuff more as well. Just, you know, here and there, since I don't normally do that when we have a third person on the show. But
I thought
I'll probably give you some hot takes as well.
Cheese wins NBA DFS tournament, so let's not pretend like he shouldn't be giving the advice. So
it happens.
Yeah. So we have a pretty obvious situation that's going to shake things up here with the Hawks and Pelicans playing each other and them sitting a bunch of their guys out. Like Trae Young's out, John Collins is out, DeAndre Hunter's out, Cam Reddish is out, Gallinari's out for the Hawks. And then the main 3 guys we talked about last night for the Pelicans are all out: Zion, Ingram, Ball, and now they have Josh Hart out. And they played 8 dudes last night, the Pelicans. So we're going to be talking about a lot of Pelicans and more Pelicans than Hawks, but plenty of those guys on both sites. So I'm going to start on FanDuel. I had Bledsoe tagged. And if I'm playing on FanDuel, I think you play him. But we get into this weird situation on FanDuel where you have to figure out kind of where to spend. And this is the position that has like the most depth, I would say, because as you can see, I have 2 shooting guards tagged and 2 power forwards tagged. And again, for people who are just watching for the first time, I'm talking cash game build here. So I would play Bledsoe in cash games if I was playing on FanDuel. And then what you do with him, if you are going that route, is probably you might have to pay up for like a Ja Morant or a Chris Paul. You can pair him with Jordan Poole. I know our projections prefer Poole for the dollar. I still kind of think you go Bledsoe. But as you can see, plenty of good options here. I think you stick in Bledsoe there and then figure out what to do based on some of these other spots. And just real quickly, as you can see, let's look at the percentage or the projected ownership here. Some of this is getting ironed out. Like I know there was a tech issue that they're trying to fix. Like Kira Lewis is showing 0%. That's going to get fixed. Actually, let me hit a refresh real quick. But that's probably going to update here. If not in a second, then in a few minutes. But plenty of good options. Ownership spread out at point guard. So plenty of good guys you can look to in tournaments. Let's go to shooting guard, where I'm not going to talk about the cash build because I have 2 guys tagged who I think you have to play, Alexander Walker and Van Vliet. So as you can see, these guys are soaking up a ton of the ownership. So if you are looking to tournaments, we're still unsure what's going to happen with the Hawks, like who they're going to start. They could start a handful of different dudes in the backcourt, like Lou Will's there now, Kevin Huerter, Bogdanovich. They could start 2 of those 3 guys. So we need to keep an eye on what that situation is going to be. I think we have Huerter and Bogdanovich in there. But man, plenty of good options here. Like Gary Trent, he took 22 shots last game. We have a high smash percentage on him, low ownership. So like plenty of good options for tournaments, but I think you go with those 2 guys in cash games. And small forward, like we have a really good projection on Bogdanovich. That is anticipating he's starting. He played 45 minutes last night. That is a lot of minutes for a dude who had a pretty serious knee injury to start the year, who they were handling with kid gloves. So you can play him there. I actually like some builds that spend up, like Gordon Hayward, Chris Middleton. There's Kyle Kuzma, like that 7K range. Like you can go there if you're spending down at the other point guard spot, and depending on what you do at center. But yeah, still plenty of good options here. Like Patrick Williams at 3.6 with a sub 10% projected ownership is a good one. I really like Justin Holiday against at 3.8 against the Hornets, a team that gives up a lot of threes. If he's hitting threes, he could pay off this price tag pretty easily. So there's plenty of options to go at small forward. And I don't think there's going to be a clear cut path there. So keep that in mind. Then power forward, not much to add here. I think you can do these 2 guys, Giannis and James Johnson in cash games. And then I really like Siakam for tournaments. We only have him at 19%. Christian Wood at 16%, like some really good options here, but those are your 2 guys in cash games. And then center is difficult because again, you can only play 1. I really like Robert Williams tonight. He's only 6'6". He was like, I think it was his last game that he got kind of late. He got late scratched and for an illness, but that's their guy now in the middle. And he's 6-6 on FanDuel. The scoring system rewards, 3 points for blocks and steals, which he gets in bulk. So I really like him. Steven Adams actually doesn't get that big of a bump with all these Pelicans guys out. Like he played 36 minutes last night at 22 FanDuel points. Like, yeah, you can go there if you land on him, but I like Williams and Capella, who played a bunch of minutes last night too. And that's FanDuel. Roth, anything you want me to touch on before I go to DK, which is a really easy build, so I shouldn't take too long there.
There was just Mr. Donk had a question. Does Lou Will play 30 minutes here? And is there any chance Capella plays over 30?
Oh, I mean, we have him at 33. Like I said, he played I think he was up in the 40s last night too, just because that game went to double overtime.
Mm-hmm.
He's had that heel issue. He rolled his ankle last night, but he wasn't on the injury report, so it sounds like he's fine. And the price tag's pretty good on FanDuel, and he gets a lot of block shots too. So I would play him in cash games. And if for some reason something weird comes up, you have late swap options. There's 10 games on the slate, so yeah, I think he's going to play over 30 minutes for sure.
Okay, let's jump over to DK.
Yeah, that was an amazing breakdown. I've heard of so many of those guys. Go to DK now.
Jeez, hit the mute button.
Herder.
Don't do it.
I like the herder.
Hey, he pronounces it right. All right, so DK, very, very stars and scrubsy. Tons of Pelicans in my initial build. Like I'm going Bledsoe, Nikhil, James Johnson at, I think small forward is best to put him there, just because there's not a crazy amount of options there. But then I'm also like, if I'm my next guy in, I think it's probably going to be Kira Lewis. Like these guys are just so cheap. And the reason, like personally, the reason why I like these guys better than the Hawks, we saw them have this situation last night with a guy playing who's now out, and they played 8 guys. So like we know that Van Gundy is far more likely to keep a condensed rotation, whereas I think like with the Hawks, they have 11 guys. Like McMillan can spread that out as much as he wants to, but like this is why I'm liking a bunch of the Pelicans more, just because we know they're going to have a condensed rotation. And like the Hawks still have a decent amount of high usage guys. Like, I mean, Lou Will, Capella, Bogdanovich, there's different ways that can go. So that's why the Pelicans are popping a little more than the Hawks. I'm guessing that's why a lot of people are wondering that. So I guess basically the DK build, I'll go briefly position by position, but really here, like we need to figure out who to spend on, because like if I'm going this route, we have 8K left for the last 4 spots on average.
Wow.
So like Giannis, really good game environment, last game of the night, 3-point spread, I think, like a game total that's way higher than any other one. He hasn't been great lately, so I get it if people are a little skittish, but I mean, it's Giannis. Like he's the best fantasy point per minute guy in the league. Karl Anthony Towns, on the flip side, he has looked really good lately. 53, 62, 56, 64, then a 38, then a 56, and then a 37, then a 69. Like this guy is, with the new coach, he's that dude. So I wouldn't be mad at you if you went him over Giannis for the 800 cheaper, or you can play both if you want. Capella's a spend up. The Raptors guys who we talked about this morning in my article, Siakam and Van Vliet, plenty of spend ups. That's kind of who I'm looking at. I'm not going to really talk about any guards really, except for like Van Vliet. You're going cheap here. Like you're going Pelicans and you're going Kevin Huerter, you're going Lou Williams. Like that's the role in the way in cash games. So like in tournaments, then you're looking at all these guys who no one's going to play. These expensive guys like Luka, it's 11%. And he's one of the few guys that can get you 70, 75 tonight. De'Aaron Fox, price is coming down. He's 8.9. He was like up in he's 9.5 2 games ago. So that's what you're doing in tournaments. And then forward for cash games, James Johnson, you have Wes Iwundu too, who's cheap. You can just go full on stars and scrubs. He's another cheap Pelican. Like he played all right last night, but he's the bare minimum. So you can go there. We have the Hawks guys. Bogdanovich has small forward eligibility. There's not much here. So like you're going cheap with Pelicans, you're going cheap with Hawks, or you're going up to like a Giannis, up to a Siakam. So that's what I'm doing. Center, Capella's there. Siakam has center eligibility. Giannis has center eligibility. Cat has center eligibility. So like then you have these like 6K. This is the range I really like for tournaments. Like you can see these guys, Harrell and Williams, in the mid 6Ks, 50-point ceilings, pretty decently high smash percentages. Valanciunas, I wrote about him on the survey today. Kind of the same story. Almost a 60-point ceiling at 7.7 and like 10% ownership. So there's plenty of ways you can get different in tournaments. Basically, for whatever I said for cash games, do the opposite in tournaments, and you're guaranteed to be different. So I think that's all I got, man. There's my 10 minutes. Now we have to listen to Cheese talk. Jesus.
Oh, goodness. Talk about baseball. Actually, you got to listen to me first because I forgot that we should talk about weather off the top of the show.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. There's no weather whatsoever. There's no interesting weather games outside of the fact that one of these games is in Colorado, which of course means great hitting. But there's no extreme cold. There's no extreme heat. You look at Weather Edge, there's no extreme bumps up or down to pitching or hitting. It is a very, very boring weather day, other than the first game, which was much better for pitchers than hitters. But that game is already over. So I think it's time to just listen to Cheese.
I've always loved it when people say there's no weather. Like, that's just
Yeah.
I think people just say everyday life, like, this is great. There's like no weather today.
No weather.
What is? Oh, we live
That'd
in a
be
vacuum.
problematic if there was no
Man.
weather. Yes.
This is dangerous. Okay. So we'll just kind of go position by position. Most of it's the same on the two sides because it's a small slate. Pitcher, I like Snell more than Bauer. Just Bauer's in Coors Field, Snell is not. That's really the whole thing. But it's pretty easy to afford an expensive pitcher. So at some point, most of your lineups, you can get one. I would have more Snell than Bauer, and I would go Snell in cash just because of the Coors Field factor, but play some Bauer certainly in tournaments. Cheaper guys on DraftKings, Kikuchi is really cheap, and I think he's playable. And then Pablo Lopez is my favorite guy in there. And then Andrew Heaney, I think probably will be more popular than Lopez or close. Like I think we've got Lopez a little ahead of Heaney. I think those will be the two popular mid-range guys, but don't forget about Luzardo and Javier. Like you can play a little bit of them as well. FanDuel, the pricing's a little bit different. It's pretty darn easy to get whatever you want if you're not going like full Dodgers plus Padres stack. So you can get Snell without too much trouble really. But as far as cheaper guys, Yarborough is somewhat interesting on FanDuel where he's not as much on DraftKings because of the price. Again, Lopez and Heaney are the two guys I like, and I don't really like Kikuchi as much on FanDuel with the price. And that's pretty much your pitching pool.
Okay. Well, let's talk about some of the hitters. We like to start at the old catcher position, even though generally you tell me it's not any good.
Yeah, it's good with Will Smith. Basically, the whole slate is the Dodgers and then this huge drop off and then everyone else. And Will Smith at catcher is a big part of that. He's the best catcher. Grandal is the only other expensive catcher, and he's fine, but you want Smith more. We do have some cheap catchers. We've got this very exciting guy. What's that catcher for the White Sox name, Andy? I can't remember his name.
I think it's Vermin.
Yerman Mercedes. He's actually, a decent looking catcher for 2,100. I think that's a guy you want to go ahead and play if you need a cheap catcher. Originally, it was going to be the Padres' Campusano, who also is a pretty decent player. Those are two. They probably shouldn't be 21 and 2,200. So I think it's totally fine to just go cheap at catcher if you can't get Will Smith.
Okay.
First base. I actually love first base more than usual tonight. Abreu and Olsen are two of my favorite non-Dodgers, non-Padres players on this
They're
slate.
not cheap.
Right. And that's the thing. If you're not doing ace pitching, you can get whoever you want.
Okay.
It's pretty weird how easy it is to build lineups. It's easier on FanDuel, but even on DraftKings, like you can get a guy that seems overpriced like Abreu. But if you want to go cheap, like Evan White, 2,700, and then the guy that I actually tagged just because it makes everything else so easy is Andrew Vaughn. Is minimum salary on both sites. He's first base and outfield on DraftKings. He's batting in the middle of the lineup for the White Sox. He's young. He's never played in the majors, but he's supposed to be good, and he shouldn't be $2,000. So
Right.
it's kind of a free square if you need it.
There are times when you say play this guy for 2K, but you're probably going to get 0 points. But this is a time where play this guy for 2K and actually something could potentially happen.
Yeah, and he's batting fifth for the White Sox. Like usually the 2K guy is batting like eighth for the Pirates or something. So I mean, he's a good play. There are plenty of good first basemen. On FanDuel, you also have both like Bellinger and Muncy are both eligible at first. But I kind of like the same guys. Like Olsen is too cheap for me on FanDuel. Cronenworth is more a second base play for me on FanDuel, but you can play him at first if you need, and you still got the Vaughn thing.
Okay, second.
Speaking of second base, this is the worst position today, which is why I like Cronenworth for cheap. DraftKings Kettle Marte is cheap again. The Mariners guys are interesting. I think the Mariners are everyone's favorite sneaky stack, which means they're not sneaky. And then, Gavin Lux, yes, but as far as the Dodgers go, he's kind of my least favorite Dodger. So you play him in a stack, but you're probably saving money at second in most lineups.
Okay, third base.
That's it. So on FanDuel, Justin Turner is way too cheap. I think you just play him. DraftKings, Turner, Machado, and Rendon, and Bregman, and Chapman really are all about the same price. Kind of like all of them. I think Rendon and Chapman are the two that will get overlooked for tournaments. When you look at the slate even including the Dodgers, but after the Dodgers, like Padres will be the next chalky team, which leaves all these guys like Rendon and Chapman, like those games, the White Sox game, the Houston game, like nobody's playing any of these guys, and they're pretty good and you can afford them. So I like them. Cheap, I think Longoria is fine. You have a Diamondback at every position if you need it. It's not as ridiculous as yesterday, but you still have like Escobar for 3,200 on DraftKings if you need him. Yeah, that's what you got.
Shortstop.
Corey Seager. I mean, of course, play Tatis, play Story, play Tim Anderson, but Corey Seager, like I really think is just on another level. It's kind of ridiculous to say because who knows? He did it for 1 year. And Tatis is also on another level. But when in doubt, I'm going to play the guy in Coors Field. But on FanDuel, I think you play them both. You play Seager and Tatis. And then to be a little different, you play Story and Tim Anderson. And to me, this is the place you don't really want to try to go cheap because those top guys are just so good.
Outfield.
This thing keeps popping out of my ear. I don't know what's going on today.
Are you rolling over it again?
Freaking basketball. No.
Freaking basketball.
So Mookie Betts, Cody Bellinger, Mike Trout. They're all pretty good. Spend up for at least one outfielder. Mm-hmm. On DraftKings, you can go really up to the top and then down to the bottom. We talked about Andrew Vaughn. We've also got now the A's are starting this guy. What's Tom's first name, Andy? As far as you know,
Who?
Blaze. Tom? I believe it's Blaze.
Yeah,
Blaze.
It's not, but you can call him Blaze Tom. His name is Kaye Tom. He's actually okay too, and he's minimum salary. Bottom of the lineup. I don't love it. I prefer Vaughn. We've also got cheap Tim LeCastro leading off. We've got the cheap Mariners with Fraley and Trammell. Austin Slater is cheap leading off for the Giants. So it's really easy to go cheap. Tsugo for Tampa leading off cheap. So it's really easy to save in the outfield on DraftKings. And on FanDuel, it's just everyone's like, other than those Dodgers and Trout, everyone's like 3K. And it's just not hard to spend that for whoever you want. I also want to mention Haniger on DraftKings, like is kind of goofy that he's 3,100. But FanDuel, maybe you're playing like Myers and Pham instead of like Haniger. Like the cheap guys are just not as cheap. So to me, you want to spend up a little bit on FanDuel.
Okay, great. Let's talk stacks real quick. Cheese, you mentioned everyone's favorite sneaky stack is Seattle, which makes it not sneaky. What's the chalk? What's the cheap? And what's the actual sneaky?
Yeah, so obvious chalk Dodgers. I mean, the Dodgers are just like heads and shoulders above everyone. And then the Padres are.
Is it going to be Dodgers every day? Is that?
Well, not every day, but a lot of days. Basically, the Dodgers and the Padres are better than everyone. And all the other teams in their division have bad pitching. So it's going to be a lot of Dodgers and Padres all year.
Gotcha.
And today, like the Padres are easily the second best team. And then we get to the sneaky stuff. To me, the sneaky games are that Houston-Oakland game and that White Sox-Angels game. Like they all have pretty decent pitchers, but up and down the lineup, the hitters are way better than the guys in the Giants-Mariners game. I do like the Giants-Mariners. They're cheap. I am playing some Mariners. I get it. They're cheap. they're facing Johnny Cueto in that bullpen, yes. But I think the sneakier stacks are Oakland, Houston, and the White Sox and the Angels. Like both of those games are just completely overlooked. And the ownership gap is pretty goofy between the Dodgers. Of course I love, but they're like, 10 times the ownership of like Mike Trout and Anthony Rendon. It's a little weird.
Okay. You got a guy that you are way over the field on, or conviction play or a conviction plays?
I mean, the obvious guy is Corey Seager. Like, he's the guy I'm not going to worry about the chalk. I'm just going to play him. Otherwise, I guess I would say it's probably Anthony Rendon and Mike Trout.
Okay, excellent. With that, we're going to jump back into some of these questions, and we're going to jump back into NBA here. I don't know how I feel about jumping back and forth. We may have to reorganize.
I have a question if you want to transition. It's actually for Cheese. I want to know how, I mean, you guys have been doing this MLB Crunch Time for a couple of years now. Why do you need Roth to tell you what the next position is? Like, I just go into the next position because I know what's next.
But it makes me feel like I'm doing something, like he pauses for a half a second and I say second base. And then
Do you want to start doing that in NBA, Roth?
I don't know if you've ever done a show with Tuttle, but we tried it without Roth doing it. He did first base, and then he just sat there and like went to shortstop, and then he was like, I guess I'll do catcher now. So this is why we have to do this.
I got to keep these guys on track, man. You never know where they're going to go. All right, let's take some of these basketball questions up until lock. If somebody mixes in a baseball question, and all right, but I'm really going to focus on the basketball questions. Then we're going to hit lock. Then we're going to transition over to the baseball questions. I'm
gonna say something, Roth, that will probably knock out a couple of questions that people might be asking. Chris Boucher is starting for the Raptors, so I think you can play him in cash on DK if you want. He's in the mix. I didn't mention him when I was going through stuff. Butcher. And I'll look at his price tag on FanDuel, but he's in the mix now on DK.
Okay, what's his price on DK?
5. Okay. He is 5.2.
Okay. Let's see. I want to start with Draft Sheet. He says DKGPP. I currently have Schroeder at my guard position. Is it a mistake to play him and Joe Val over Porter Jr. and Capella?
In tournaments, no. In cash games, probably.
All right. Chinatown says cash strategy question. These guys on Atlanta who played over 40 minutes, should we be concerned about them in cash, i.e. Bogdanovich, Capella?
I am a little bit, yeah, honestly. I mean, but the thing is, we're also like on Capella, we have him at 33. Like, we're not going crazy there. Right. So, and Bogdanovich is 34. So like, I am a little worried because there are guys there are rotation pieces who can step in for them. And on the Pelicans, there are dudes like Stan Van Gundy does not want to play. So like, I think the minutes are safer in New Orleans. So like, that's why I'm gravitating towards more Pelicans.
Great. Jay says DK Cash NBA. Towns Siakam or Kuz Giannis.
I would do Towns Siakam.
That's one thing that's nice now that there's two different chats is they don't have to say NBA. Whereas before they'd be like Williams. There's like between the two sports, there's like 9 Williams. Just have no idea.
Yeah, someone smart out there can figure out what a 2v2 would look like. That's both NBA and MLB, and then we'd have no idea. Yeah.
Yeah, you would blow all our minds. All right, let's see.
It's not Vermin.
Did I ever ask the question, Town Siakam or Kuz Giannis? I got distracted.
Yeah, you just asked it, actually.
Thank you. Well, I didn't. I went on a tangent. Fit Crook says, DK Cash, this is a 3v3 for you, and a good one. Luka Giannis Herter or Siakam Van Vliet Cat.
What site was that?
DK Cash, Luka Giannis Herter or Siakam Van Vliet Cat.
I would do the second one.
Fit Crooks, back-to-back questions. A little greedy, but we'll allow it. Giannis Herter or Siakam Van Vliet. So he just knocked out 2 of those people, so I assume it's Siakam Van Vliet.
Yeah.
DK Cash from Trobe, Van Vliet and Bogdan or Giannis Awundu.
That's tough. I think I'd actually do the second one. I'd do the Giannis one.
Okay. Morning Napalm, FanDuel single entry 3v3. You want Poole, OG, and Wood, or Ja, Jalen, and McDaniels?
I would do the second one.
Diet Pepsi says DK Cash, Giannis Capella Schroeder or Cat Siakam Van Vliet. This is
Second one.
yeah. That Cat Siakam Van Fleet seems to be where like a few people have brought that up already. Ball says DK Cash. This is the same one as you just answered there too. There are a lot of similar entries coming in here. A lot of people laying in the same spot. JQ Mustang, single entry FanDuel, OG or Hayward?
Let me see. I just want to peek real quick at what ownership is on that one. I would do OG.
BHB, DKGPP, Steven Adams or Baba Boucher?
That's G. Yeah, I think it's Boucher in both now, actually.
Okay. We got 5 minutes for NBA. DK Cash, he's already playing Giannis. He wants to know, you want Boucher and Dame or Towns and Herter?
If that's Cash, I would do the second one. If it's tournaments, I'd do the first one.
I'm a Savage, FanDuel Cash, Boucher, Kuz, Luka, or Cat Bledsoe OG?
Second one?
Kind of trying to jump over to the YouTube chat, but it is not as organized. The H Train says, NBA DK Cash, Giannis Owandu or Van Fleet and Bogdan? That's another question that we've already gotten, right?
Yeah, I think it was like with another player though, maybe, but yeah, I think I'm still in the Giannis Owandu one. I'm trying to. I think I'm gonna lock in. I think I'm gonna lock in Siakam and Boucher and Cash on DK. That's only first game. Those are only two guys I'm gonna lock in from the first one. Van Vliet's kind of right there, but there's just so many better guards. So yeah, I always forget to mention that, but I'm only playing those two guys from the first game. That's the only game that locks right at 7 Eastern.
Okay, we'll go to D. Dot. FanDuel GPPs, Jaylen Brown or Gordon Hayward?
Let's see. I have Jalen's down at 11. I would do Jalen. Yep.
Hug a Tree, Trent Jr. or Bogdan, DK GPP? We've got about 3 minutes left.
I would do Trent because I think Bogdan's ownership is going to get inflated.
Okay. Actually, we're able to catch up on all those questions there. So quick MLB question for you, Cheese. DK Cash, can you play Bauer and Snell, or would it kill your hitters too much?
You can. I don't like them enough more to bother with it, but I mean, you can make a lineup that's pretty solid with it if I preference.
Okay. We'll take, we got time for a little bit more here. Derek says MLB DKGPP 5 through 8 Oakland stack with the big Dodgers and Angels bats.
5 through 8 Oakland. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Basketball question for you means Schroeder in a FanDuel tournament.
Oh yeah.
Baseball, Cheese. Mike Lowry says Pollock, Pham, or Myers. Pollock, Pham, or Myers.
If it's cash, go Pollock. If it's a tournament, go Myers.
All right. Relgo, tell him DKGPP means OG and Saric or Owandu and Siakam.
First, you're probably gonna get far lower ownership on the first one. I do the first one.
Draft Cheat says DKGPP, Wiggy and Kira. Oh, Wiggy and Kira or Van Fleet and James Johnson.
That was cash or tournament.
DKGPP.
I would do the non-chalky one, the non-Pelicans Raptor one.
Okay. Ink Magma says FanDuel GPP. Why is nobody playing KPJ? Wall is out. That dude balls when Wall is out, right?
He does. His minutes were not as much as I was hoping for last game, and he's a little more expensive on FanDuel. They bumped him up to 6K, but I mean, yeah, he's freaking good, man.
Okay. Jake says OG versus Oubre FanDuel cash.
I would do OG.
Okay. Also, I'm curious how many people are simultaneously playing both basketball and baseball. So if you're in one of these chats, whether it's the YouTube chat or the Crunch Time chats, let me know, because I'm curious if that's something people are doing. That should be just about lock, and we got all the questions. So yeah. Generic pointing out the Cheese was even taking down NHL tournaments. What can't he do? It's true. He can also sing and play the guitar, and he sings beautifully, like an angel.
Oh, golf. He can't do golf.
Can't do. There you go.
Plane or DFS?
Putt.
Oh. All right. few questions, and yes, there are a lot of people saying, yeah, we're playing both. So this is a perfect show for those who are playing both. Let's get into some of these baseball questions. If we have now hit a little basketball lock, and if you are doing both, give us some feedback after the show about what works for you, what doesn't work. We're trying to, make this help you guys as much as possible. Diving into these questions over on baseball, I'm going to start with Sit Down Son, who says these crunch times are the best. Then I'll go to the question underneath that and say DKGPP from Yep, That's Me, Trout and Wilmer Flores. I've got Kikuchi SP2.
Hold on
or
one second. The way that you said half-heartedly the name Sit Down Son and then read his comment made it not true. Would you please do that again?
Sit down, son.
Thank you.
You're right. I did that wrong. I was in a hurry.
Like he's talking about how great crunch time is, and then you just sit down, son.
I did him dirty. You're right. Thank you. DKGPP, Trout and Wilmer Flores, parentheses, Kikuchi SP2, or Blackman and Lux with my 4-man Dodger stack. Lux would be 5.
Do the Trout side.
The Trout side?
Yep. Okay.
Pluck says, Cheese, your favorite catcher? Matthews, McDavid, McKinnon. Those sound like hockey players.
Oh, he's talking about hockey. Catchers. Hockey.
That's
center.
Yeah. That's what I thought. I saw the C and I was like, those are hockey names, right?
Sadly, I'm not playing hockey tonight because of this being at this time. Most nights I do.
Okay. I'm proud of myself for recognizing those as hockey players, even though I read it as catcher anyways. Both sports here for Sit Down Son. Smith and Walker or White and Tucker?
That's a combo question there. Let's see. Smith and Walker, which I'm assuming is Will Smith and Christian Walker. First, I'll assume that's Evan White and Kyle Tucker. I would go Smith and Walker.
I have no idea what just
It
happened.
could have been PJ Tucker for the NBA. I don't know.
See, I was wondering if he's actually making an NBA plus MLB question.
Oh God, he was.
It wasn't.
You have a Walker
No, it
too.
wasn't.
Is there a Kemba Walker? Is Kemba Walker?
Oh yeah, Kemba. He's playing tonight. Yeah.
It
could be.
You
Great
blew
question.
our minds. Please, dear
but
God.
they're
don't
all
do that to
baseball
me,
names too. So
okay. Cheese, could you give us your 3 favorite Dodgers bats tonight in order?
Seager, Bellinger, Betts.
All right. DK Cash. No, please don't do these 2 sport ones. They make me nauseous. Morning Napalm, FanDuel GPP, Luzardo, Lopez, or Heaney?
Slight lean to Lopez, but I'm playing all 3.
All right. Jay says FanDuel Cash, Yarbrough and all the Dodgers, or Snell and Dodgers. And please rank the Dodgers bats, but you just did that.
So it's easy enough to play Snell and get at least 2 or 3 of the good Dodgers. Like play Snell with Seager and Betts and then punt a couple spots. Don't feel like you have to get 4 if that's what you need.
Okay. Martin De Jesus says, Cheese, give me a dong call for tonight.
I mean, a non-obvious one, kind of obvious. We'll go with Will Myers.
Okay. Excellent.
You didn't pick Blaze, Tom?
That's one of the obvious ones. What are you doing?
Oh, okay, sorry.
R. Stanley says, how come there's no more Rotogrinders contest on FanDuel? Well, we did the single entry series, but we concluded the single entry series.
Yeah, that was like 6 weeks.
Yeah. Mike Lowry says, is Luzardo okay with the White Sox and Dodgers stack, or should I pivot to Yarbrough? Is that just the same? No, not a similar question, but not the same.
Yeah, you're like Luzardo has a little bit more upside and Yarbrough's a little safer. So kind of size of the tournament. If you're kind of more shooting for the moon, I'd play Luzardo.
Okay, great. Stan, FanDuel Cash, Pollock Belly or Betts Fam?
Betts Fam.
Draft Sheet says, DKGPP, I've got Hosmer and Cronenworth in my Padres stack to fit in the LA Bats. Should I be looking at other Padres besides those 2?
Generally speaking, like those really aren't the guys you want if it's not a bigger stack than that. Like they're okay. I don't mind. Certainly Cronenworth with the salary. I don't really like Hosmer if it's not at least like a 3-man stack. They're okay, but basically I would want more Padres or somebody else.
Okay. Got just about 5 minutes until lock here. Don't forget, hit that like and subscribe button over there on YouTube, because this is a delicate, beautiful dance that you're witnessing right here. This is poetry in motion. Straw says DK Cash, Belly Vaughn, or Trammell and Cronenworth.
Belly Vaughn.
I read that.
That seems like salary, not.
I read that wrong. I got it jumped into the next question. DK Cash, Belly Vaughn, or Trammell and Abreu.
Okay, that makes more sense. I would still go Belly Vaughn.
Bill says still no weather. The weather's good. I already gave the weather report. There's still no weather. There's not going to be any weather today. There will be throughout the season. And Bad says FanDuel Cash, Lowry Myers, or Cronenworth Trammell.
Cronenworth Trammell.
Straw says Trout or Betts and DK Cash.
Betts.
Dean says Sean Murphy scratched.
Oh, interesting. I mean, luckily we've got 3 hours before most of these games start, so it's fine. But thank you for sharing that.
I mean, that's ridiculous to have someone late scratch after. I mean, this late in the game, there's just no reason for the sport to be like that.
Crazy.
You don't see that in NBA.
2.5 hours before lock is unacceptable.
Yeah, that don't see that in NBA. Never. Any initial thoughts about Sean Murphy being out? Is there going to be some replacement that's going to be dirt cheap now?
So he was just like, you're pretty much just using him in a stack anyway. And I don't think that's going to, no, I'm going to look at who's coming in for him, but no, that doesn't really change anything other than it probably gives you some money on DK because he was actually pretty expensive. And I guess Aramis Garcia is probably going in now. He's kind of nobody, but I haven't looked. I would assume he's cheap. He had some minor league power, but somebody can tell us the salaries. If he's like minimum salary, he's kind of there with Mercedes. I prefer Mercedes, but I would assume if you're swapping, you're going to end up with a bunch of money left over, would be my guess.
Okay. J-Rod says FanDuel Cash, last spot, Pollock or Jastremolduski?
Pollock.
I pronounced that right. Correct?
That is correct, yes.
Yeah, I'm just making sure I nailed that one. White Sox for all the money, cheese, and there's no question mark. That's just a statement.
Yeah, no. Oh, well, if you saw my expert survey hot take, it was batters 1 through 6 for the White Sox hit home runs. So that would be me saying yes.
Wow. Love it. Stan says FanDuel Cash, Pham or Myers?
Pham, but that's a flip a coin, but I would go Pham.
Okay. MHD, DKGPP, your favorite pitcher besides the top 2 for tournaments?
Pablo Lopez.
Surfer Swim says, does Slater have any pinch hit risk tonight?
Yes, but I'm not really worried about it. Like I think just play him if you're playing him, because I think Darren Ruff is more of the pinch hit risk, and I doubt they take them both out. So I'm okay with Slater. Just assume he plays.
All right,
AC
we've got
Slater?
2 minutes until baseball. What was that means?
AC Slater?
No, I don't.
That guy's a classic.
DK Cash from Arlo. The Opto with Lopez Snell gives me Lowry at second. What are your thoughts on old Jed?
I mean, he's definitely just for the salary only. Like I didn't consider him anywhere other than a full stack. But like it's a pretty bad position. So if that's what you need to make everything work, it's fine.
Okay. Morning Napalm, FanDuel GPP, Hosmer Turner or Machado Lux?
Machado Lux.
Okay. Diet Pepsi, DK Cash, White Cronenworth or Lowry Pham?
White Cronenworth.
Diet Pepsi, I think I missed your question earlier. I'm sorry about that. Matt Hack says DK single entry mini stack of Oakland or Giants, mini stack of Oakland or Giants to go with Padres.
I really like the Oakland mini stack. Like they're both very viable, but I prefer the Oakland side.
All right. KM says 2-3 for Garcia.
Yeah, so that's the guy who's going to fill in for the injured Sean Murphy. So that's going to leave you $1,700 left on DraftKings. So if you are making that swap, you get to upgrade somewhere.
Okay. D-Dot says FanDuel GPPs. What are your thoughts on Johnny Cueto?
I mean, he's pretty close to the bottom tonight, but like I do think he's still got something left in the tank. I didn't X him out of the lineup builder, but I didn't put him in any lineups on purpose. Like if I have him, it's kind of just accident. He just happened to fit. Okay, but I don't love him.
Okay. It's probably just about locked. Jason says, anybody firing on your bro?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cheese is firing.
But definitely on FanDuel. He's a little too cheap.
Okay. Let's see. We've got some means talk, and I don't mean this one. KM says, shout out to the GOAT Means, John Means today. He crushed it.
Yeah. Oh,
Did you see
Thanksgiving
Dean's
every
power
year
rankings?
is so exciting. Yeah.
And
like
Dean
the
You
said
memes.
see Dean's power rankings.
It's rough that even though you were third in Dean's power rankings,
I
it
was
only
technically
went
last.
to Yeah, you
Yeah, I was
were last.
He
That's
said I was
not
on the
great.
podium. I said no, I was last.
Right. If he could have put in like sometimes he was like 1, 2, 3, and then 722nd.
I don't even know who the 722nd one is, but I was
Would have
last.
been nice. Yeah, it would have been.
Unreal.
You might as well have been since you were last. You were 722nd as well.
Unreal.
Dean says, can we please have Cheese give his updated means power rankings? No
I will
pressure.
have to like research that to find some more because I'm uncomfortable with how high some of them would have to place. So I don't know.
You love John Means.
I do. I mean, he's really truly good. He really is.
And did you see the someone I saw on Twitter stole my 5th grade student council slogan? Andy means business. They stole it for his headline today for how well he pitched.
Like so,
I got me president in 5th grade student council.
like,
is that a
the-
true story?
Yeah.
the thing is, that's a 5th grade level like motto. Like a 5th grader would be like, "That's an amazing word." But for a Major League Baseball player, like, God, I mean, that's like a dad joke for the musings, like not an actual Major League pitcher for the Orioles shutting down the Red Sox. Like, come up with something better than that.
Man, that's good stuff. All right. We've got a few questions here. Well, I'm going to try to jump around from all the various spots. If you're still hanging out in the YouTube, like, subscribe, and better yet, join in because these crunch times are not going to be free forever. In fact, there's not a whole lot of them left. So sign up for Rotogrinders Premium. I believe you still get $10 off your first month. Devin, is that correct? That is correct. If it wasn't, I was going to have to pay the $10 for everyone that signed up. So I'm glad that's correct. That's good to hear. Matt Hack says, Trajan Langdon, JJ Redick, and Andy Means walk into a gym. Who makes more threes?
Not me. Those are like
I don't know, man.
2
I've
best
seen the
shooters in
stroke.
Duke history.
I've seen the stroke. Let's see. G next door says FanDuel GPP. Maybe this is late swappable. Kyle Seager. That's the one. Kyle Seager and Dylan Moore, or Justin Turner and Will Myers.
So that's one of those, like, clearly and by far, Justin Turner and Will Myers should be expected to score more points, but the ownership will drastically mirror that. So that's kind of that depends what the rest of your lineup is. Like, if the rest of your lineup is pretty chalky, I would go Seager and Moore. Certainly, if you have other Mariners, but if you're asking me who's probably going to score more points, it's Turner and Myers.
Okay. Means Draymond Green won't start.
That game already started, so no need to get into it. It looks like he's a late scratch, which is stupid.
I have no comment. I think that's fine.
He just said he was just making fun of the baseball thing.
For the 2.5 hours at a time.
Yeah, I
understand.
texted him. I said, just don't play tonight. I want Cheese to feel good about himself and feel good about baseball.
I feel fine. I assure you.
Juan Toscano Anderson starting in place of Draymond, but as you mentioned, nothing we can do about that. But the fact that you were giving Cheese shit for the baseball late scratch and then that actually happened is pretty.
Like, I don't even have to say anything for people to know how nonsensical.
I don't
that
recall
sport is.
saying that. So
yeah. I remember it. Okay, gentlemen, that is pretty much it. We've gotten all of the questions. We have done. All right, there's one more question here, and Cheese, that's just a general knowledge thing. Maybe you can help with. It is about humidors. Bill says, can you ask Cheese about the humidors, like in Seattle? Any info yet? Are there new humidors in, or are there things you know or are expecting because of them?
So, we're waiting for data before I have any opinion about the baseballs, whether it's the actual baseballs or the humidor effect. They have added 5 new humidors this season. I officially have no comment for a couple of weeks. Like, we just need to get the data and see what it says. Like, it's silly to try to guess ahead of time because we're going to know pretty quickly. Like, we just need a couple of weeks and we're going to be able to identify what it means in different spots. So right now, no, I don't have an opinion. It should, like, theoretically, it should be better for the pitchers where they have the humidor, but we don't even know what baseball they're using yet. So let's just wait and see.
Right. And it'd be interesting if they deadened the baseball and added the humidors. You're trying to figure out how much is the effect this and how much is the effect.
And right now we don't know if we still don't know if it worked, if they're deadening the baseball actually went the other way or not. Like we're just going to need a couple weeks to figure this out.
Right. And the first few games at least have been played in very cold weather, which might also.
And they're still hitting home runs. So, I mean,
yeah, that's true.
Mostly old people are hitting home runs. It's been pretty fantastic for old guys.
Old man strength.
Yeah.
They don't care if it's cold. Old man strength. Oh, guys, that was exhausting, but enjoyable, I must say. I did thoroughly enjoy that. There's more of these coming, right? A lot more of these coming.
Yeah, we got 6 weeks.
It's gonna be a long 6 weeks, man.
Jesus, do you know how terrible it's gonna
be?
Think
Think about how many props I have to come up with. Like I got to go to the magic store or something.
Yeah, I'm dreading the bad weather days. Devin,
I was gonna say we didn't even have any weather on this one.
Yeah, you're gonna have to jump in and take questions when there's weather, Devin, because that's gonna be insane. But hey, this was wonderful times. So thank you all for joining us. A good time. Thank you for Mr. Andy Means to Cheese is Good, for Devin, always working hard behind the scenes. Everybody at home, guys, we appreciate you. We love you. And we will catch you tomorrow. You have been crushed.